the scientific demon of an anime Omniverse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, The Conqueror King's Taunt. Facing King Gu's question, Ryder straightened his chest, a bright smile appeared on his face, and loudly repeated the words that had just been ignored. I am Alexander Iskander, the King of Conquerors. I have come as a rider. I ask you if you are willing to join my army and give me the Holy Grail. I will definitely regard you as my friends and share the pleasure of conquering the world. This is an overly nonsensical proposal. King Gu was stunned without even getting angry. An assassin opposite him seemed to not know what to say, and was stunned there. King Iskander, the King of Conquerors, is a leading hero even in the entire world history. The land he conquered ranks second among all the kings in ancient and modern times, second only to Genghis Khan Temujin, and above God's whip Attila. He has the unparalleled legend of conquering the largest country in the shortest time. The short life of 33 years left behind the legend of endless conquests. In human history, no one is as eager as him to realize the ambition of conquering the world. Even so what? He suddenly appeared, openly stated his real name, and demanded respect from others before fighting. All these actions made people feel that he had no intention of joining the Holy Grail War. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. Has the world ever been conquered by such a fool? More than one person had this thought. So, the scene entered a strange calm for a while. Well, the treatment can be negotiated. Seeing that no one responded, Ryder added again. The assassin chuckled, and then seemed to be planning to turn around and leave. He no longer had any desire to continue the battle. King Gu frowned, anger rising in his heart, and he shouted loudly, Fool, do you know who you are talking to? I am the son of the mother goddess of creation and pure mankind, King Gu. I came as archer. What? Waver and Ryder were both shocked. Mother goddess of creation? Who? Nur? Gaia? Tiamat? Or who? Wait, King Gu? After you get the name, go back and check it out. See if you can collect some information based on the records. Waver was not an excellent magician, but he could be considered a magician. He knew things like collecting information. And Ryder was. Demigod hero? So powerful? You can choose the treatment you want. He had a strange brain circuit that didn't understand what people were saying. You guy, King Gu is already angry. Oh. It seems that the talks have fallen through. The guy who is about to leave, do you want to surrender to me? If you have any powerful means, you can tell me and the treatment can be negotiated. Ho ha ho ha. Assassin laughed loudly, and seemed to be very interested in what Ryder said. Interesting, I have seen many kings, but this is the first time I have seen someone like you. You are the first one who said you want to take back my life. They all begged me to spare their lives, Assassin said in a slightly hoarse and heavy voice. Oh, it seems that I can also feel honored. Brother, you are also a capable person. You can ask for any salary. I refuse. I will not surrender to any country. I am the sword suspended over the heads of those in power, and the terminator of power. Oh. What a pity. Iskander smiled helplessly. He already had some guesses about Assassin's origin in his heart. After all, he was a terrifying existence in that area. Hey. How could anyone agree to this? What on earth are you thinking about? The complaining Waver was hit on the head by a fist as big as a casserole. Waver squatted on the chariot with a weak face. Ha, it's better to try it than to talk. Is that your real name? Waver really couldn't control his servant. It's you. Mr. Weber. I was wondering who stole my holy relic inexplicably. I didn't expect that it was you who wanted to participate in the Holy Grail War. Weber Velvet. A new voice came from all directions, and the moment Weber heard this voice, he instinctively wanted to hide like a mouse seeing a cat. This was mainly because he was guilty. This voice came from his teacher, Kenneth. And he summoned Ryder because he stole his teacher's holy relic. What a pity. I wanted to make this lovely student happy. Weber. A mortal like you should have a stable life that only belongs to mortals. Kenneth's harsh voice seemed to carry magic, making Weber dizzy and dizzy. The pressure of his mentor's long-term prestige and dazzling halo made Weber breathless. It seems that I should give you a special extracurricular lesson, that is, what is the mutual slaughter between magicians? I will give you this horror and pain without reservation. It is your honor? The murderous eyes made Waver, who was still in the ivory tower and had fantasies about the future, realized the cruelty of the magician world for the first time. Waver was trembling with fear, and he didn't even have the time to pay attention to the humiliation brought to him by this sentence. At this time, a gentle and strong hand hugged the young boy's small shoulders that were trembling alone because of fear. "Hey, magician, it seems that you want to replace this kid as my master," Ryder asked Kenneth, who was hiding somewhere. In fact, his face was full of malicious pity smile, which made his face crooked. "If that's really the case, it's ridiculous. The one who can become my master must be a warrior who can ride on the battlefield with me. A coward like you who doesn't even dare to show up is not qualified at all." Silence fell, and the atmosphere became very awkward. Only the anger of Kenneth, who was still hidden, spread in the night air. "Humph," Ryder laughed sarcastically, as if he was disdainful of Kenneth. "I say, there are others? People who are spying on us in the dark?" Ryder questioned loudly. Ryder wanted to send the deafening sound to every corner of Fuyuki, and shouted again. "I am not the only one who has come here to be attracted by the wonderful battle between archer and assassin. Poor. How pitiful." The heroes gathered in Fuyuki. "Don't you have any feelings when you see the courage shown by assassin and archer here? You have real names worth boasting about, but you only peek in the dark. How cowardly. The names of your heroic spirits are crying." After laughing loudly, Ryder tilted his head slightly with a fearless expression on his face, and finally looked around with a provocative look. "Gather here now, heroic spirits invited by the Holy Grail. Cowards who are still afraid to show their faces will inevitably be humiliated by me, the king of conquerors. Iskander. Fuck. This mockery? No way. No way. No servant who is famous and renowned in history can tolerate it. Don't you think so, Solomon? Why don't you just write my ID number? I tell you. I can tolerate it, why bother?" Chapter 77 Glory and Fall. Points of light flickered, and several powerful magic powers gathered. The strange golden armor reflected no light, but he emitted a gentle glow, like the kindness of the sun. His short white hair fluttered in the wind, his skin was so white that it looked sick, and he held a golden spear. Compared to the feeling of the armor, the spear in his hand had a different posture, like thunder. He was wearing a black tights, and it seemed that a gem was inlaid on his chest. "You can't pretend that you didn't hear this. Although I can't report my name to the three of you, it's a pity to have a fair fight, but it's a great honor to be able to gather with you. I am Lancer, one of the three knights, the knight of the spear, Lancer. Ho ha ho ha. It doesn't matter. I also think it's a great honor to be able to gather with you. I wonder if you have considered surrendering to me." Ryder laughed and said to Lancer. "Excuse me." Lancer rejected Ryder very calmly and simply. "Well, what a pity." Ryder shrugged. He was used to it. Ryder looked around again and saw that only one servant had appeared. He showed a little surprise on his face. He shouted again, "No way. No way. Is the glory of past heroes so weak? Is it not enough to let you show your faces? Well, this is a gathering of heroes, cowards don't have to come. Oh my god, this is too much. No way. Here's a string of ID numbers. Can you tolerate this? Aren't you too idle? Don't other masters plan to lurk and wait, and kill them directly like poisonous snakes? What are you doing? It's okay. I just persecute you for fun." Look, another servant has appeared. Just when everyone thought it was going to end, a torrent of magic power blew from nowhere. No one expected it. It was a dark and ominous spirit. In the eyes of the crowd, either surprised or confused, the magic power rolled up, gradually solidified into a line and turned into a stubborn and unyielding figure. The shadow stood about 2 blocks away from the courtyard where archer and assassin fought. Yes, his figure can only be described as a shadow. He is tall, broad-shouldered, and covered in armor. But unlike Lancer's strange golden armor that does not seem to have any protective effect, it is more similar to Assassin's full-body heavy armor. The servant's armor is black. Like Assassin, there are no exquisite decorations, no polished colors. But unlike Assassin's armor that gives people a sense of peace, it is an extreme black like hell, and even his face is covered by a helmet. Deep in the small gap of the helmet, only the dazzling red light emitted by the eyes burning like a raging fire can be seen. There is no doubt that this is the 5th servant. But what kind of heroic spirit is this ominous figure? The elements of glory possessed by the heroic spirits who appeared on the scene, the Black Knight does not have. Archer, Rider, Lancer, and even Assassin, each of them has their own glory. This is the glory of being a heroic spirit, the legend created by the admiration and longing of the people, and the honor brought. It is the essential element for them to become a noble fantasy. But the newly appeared Black Knight does not have those elements. Not only does he not have the glory of a heroic spirit, but he also exudes a heart-pounding negative fluctuation. Rather than saying he's a heroic spirit, it is better to say that he is a vengeful spirit. King of conquerors, aren't you going to persuade him to surrender? Kingu had long been dissatisfied with Ryder, and took the opportunity to tease Ryder. Ryder frowned when he heard this, and said with a wry smile, "Convince him to surrender. Even if I want to, he is not the kind of guy who can communicate." The only thing released by the Black Knight in front of him was the absolute murderous aura. Even the whirlwind generated by his magic power was like a curse of resentment, and it was creepy just to see it. Everyone knows him as Berserker. Such a dangerous and murderous fluctuation can only make people think of a heroic spirit in a frenzy. It's him. Roman instantly recognized that this was the servant who attacked the mansion about a year ago, but at this moment the aura of this servant became more terrifying, even creepy. "So, kid, what level is that guy among the servant?" When Ryder asked, Waver stared at him for a while. His expression gradually became horrified, sweat flowed down his face, and he shook his head stiffly and said, "I don't know, I can't tell at all." "What? You are my master after all. You should be able to see what he is good at and what he is not good at, right?" Once a master who has made a contract with a heroic spirit is granted the ability to see through the ability values of other servants. The Holy Grail War invites heroic spirits to participate, and only grants this special ability to the master. This allows Ryder's master Waver to compare the ability differences between Ryder and other servants, and then formulate strategies to make the battle develop in a favorable direction. Now Waver has grasped the... well, so far, he has not seen the attributes of anyone. It is worth mentioning that he can see Lancer's attribute parameters, but he just can't understand them. His 5-dimensional parameters are all comma, which is completely incomprehensible. "I just can't tell. That black guy is clearly a servant, but I can't tell his information at all." No matter how Waver looked, he couldn't see his attributes. Everything seemed to be blocked. The black armor didn't show any characteristics or personality. There was nothing to hint at his identity. No, it's better to say that the more I looked at it, the less clear it became. Even his specific appearance was unclear. It was like projecting an out-of-focus image. The outline of the black armor always became blurred. Sometimes 2 or 3 figures would overlap, and I always felt that the figure was an illusion. That figure not only affected the vision, but also affected the master's perspective. "What about the others?" Ryder continued to ask. "That? I can't see any of them." "What?" Ryder began to suspect that Waver might be a fake master. After all, if one person can't be seen, it can be said that he has a treasure, or a curse, and if all of them can't be seen, then it must be the master's problem. It can't be that they all have treasures, curses, and abilities. The result is true. It can be said that, at present, the one who has exposed the most information on the field is Ryder. The others have the ability to hide themselves to some extent. But Ryder and Waver don't know. Ryder didn't say anything, he just complained, and Waver really began to doubt whether his level was too low. In fact, there is no doubt that Waver is indeed the weakest among the serious masters in this Holy Grail War. Only Ryunosuke Uzumaki, who accidentally pleased Nyarlathotep to enter the field, is weaker than him. Chapter 78 Rage. Raw. The originally deadlocked situation was quickly broken by Kingu and Berserker. The Dark Knight stared at Kingu standing not far away with a creepy gaze. In return, Kingu also keenly caught his gaze. Kingu looked at Berserker and chuckled and said, "So the target is me. You are very courageous." Kingu had only one way to deal with the enemy's provocation. Roar. Berserker let out a deafening roar, and the sound waves mixed with magic echoed throughout the warehouse area. Waver couldn't help but cover his ears. He felt that his eardrums were about to be shattered. Berserker held a long sword wrapped in the same black mist and rushed towards Kingu. The dark magic surrounded him, adding a bit of terror to his charging figure. "Humph!" Kingu laughed contemptuously, waved his hand, and a chain was whipped towards Berserker. The chain shone with sacred golden inscriptions. This golden whip was like a punishment from the gods. Clang. In an instant, the sword knocked down the whip, and the golden chain hit the ground heavily, just like a bomb exploded, and the asphalt turned into dust and splash everywhere, covering all vision. Everyone held their breath. In the misty dust, the long black shadow swayed and appeared. He rushed out of the smoke and dust in an instant, and even the airflow carried by the charge swept the smoke and dust into his momentum. Oh, this time it was no longer a chuckle, but surprise. He had tested Berserker's level just now. Obviously, Jingu felt a little surprised. Jingu also became serious. His right hand shone with a metallic light, and his feet were separated to make a gathering action. He was actually going to confront Berserker head-on. Boom! Kingu punched Berserker's sword hard, and Berserker, who was originally charging, was actually knocked away by Kingu's punch. Berserker rolled in the air and stepped on the ground with both feet. The powerful impact left 2 footprints on the ground. Hey, hey! No way! Waver shouted in disbelief. He just saw Kingu's strength attribute in an instant. It turned into A+ at the moment of contact, but soon changed back to dot. He was surprised because Kingu's rank is usually held by the fastest servant, and Kingu's strength has reached A+, which is almost the limit of a servant. What would be his best treasure? Anyway, it won't be lower than A+. This is the ability Kingu got from the former owner of this body. Transfiguration is one of Jingu's powerful abilities. He can freely distribute his attributes. Usually, his attributes are averaged at A, and as long as he wants, he can weaken other attributes to make himself reach A+. Of course, he can't add all of them to 1 to break the limit. The strength of the master will determine his upper limit. With Tasuka Tokiyami as the master, A+ is the limit, but this is also a monster with all attributes reaching A+. It's worthy of being the trump card prepared by Tasuka Tokiyami by surprise. It's really good. In the courtyard, an eye appeared in the air, spying on the battle. Matao Korea has been completely reborn. His own combat power is definitely not inferior to that of a first-class servant, and his methods are weird. However, after becoming so powerful, his spiritual perception has also become powerful. The reason why he has not gone to save Sakura again is that he felt a huge sense of crisis in the Matao mansion. His intuition told him that if he went, he would die. So, he chose the path of seizing the Holy Grail. That great being told him that the being who could easily crush him would not use his power outside the Matao mansion. As long as he could get the Holy Grail, he could redeem Sakura and even use the Holy Grail directly to gain the power to fight against him. He speculated that it should be his father who summoned the servant by some means, and it was restricted by the region. Therefore, he chose the strategy of seizing the Holy Grail. And since he wanted to seize the Holy Grail, then Tasuka Tokiyami was the enemy, and it just so happened that he hated Tasuka Tokiyami a lot. So, there was this battle. His berserker, named Lancelot, was a famous knight in Britain. Under the berserk and his terrifying magic supply, his attributes were directly maxed out. All the attributes that could be affected by magic were pulled to A+, forcibly from the top heroic spirit to the pseudo-ceiling level. Even in terms of strength, it was enough to suppress Jingu. The reason why he was repelled was that Lancelot had no place to borrow power in the air, so he fell into disadvantage under that blow. Roar! Berserker roared wildly. He rushed towards Kingu. His eyes became even redder, and extremely frantic killing intent rushed towards Kingu. Bang! Kingu's feet crushed the ground, and at that moment he showed the limit of his agility as a servant. Both parties were moving at high speed. At the moment of their collision, it seemed that the whole world was only left with a blow between them. Boom! The two parties, who had almost reached the limit of servants, collided violently, and the contact of swords and fists produced unimaginable strong winds. Hey, hey! Are these two berserkers fighting? And is that berserker really a berserker? Ryder said with an incredible expression. After all, the battle in front of him was too shocking. Although he had seen the wonderful battle between Assassin and Kingu before, Berserker and Kingu still surprised him. Berserker's martial arts are no worse than Assassin's who fought with Kingu before, but his basic attributes are much stronger. Judging from the current battle between the two, it seems that their strength and agility are both A+, and their endurance has at least reached A. As for their magic power, it is hard to tell. Clang! Berserker and Kingu clashed again. The area around them was already in a mess. The roar shook the air, and the rising sonic booms continued to echo. However, because the citizens of Fuyuki City have good psychological qualities and sleep very soundly at night, even such a big noise will not attract the attention of others. Kingu suddenly kicked Berserker, and then the force jumped backwards, pulling away from Berserker. Anger appeared on his face, and a tiny trace of black substance appeared on his chain. That was Berserker's magic power. He actually tried to use magic power to invade Kingu's chain. Although it was directly resisted by the inscription on it, it made Kingu extremely angry. Asshole! How dare you? How dare you? Although Jingu had given people a rather irritable feeling before, it was after all an old enemy and a sneak attack, so it was normal for him to be angry. Moreover, his behavior at that time was not anger, but only dissatisfaction. But now, even a blind person can tell from the sound that he is angry. Please recommend. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 79 The Future Daughter? The Future Path. Miscellaneous Cultivator, you've pissed me off. Jingu's face was terribly gloomy, his eyes were like two sharp blades piercing through Berserker's armor, cutting him continuously. Roar! Berserker tilted his head slightly, and let out a mocking roar, at least in Jingu's eyes. Without yelling, Jingu's expression completely turned cold, and he didn't say another word. Snap! He snapped his fingers lightly. The light of miracle condensed in front of him, and a book appeared in front of him. That is, Xia Yu stood up suddenly, and through the surveillance magic of the imaginary space, he stared at the book intently. Science magic Xia Yu knew that it was not a magic book with the same name, but a genuine one, just like the one in Xia Yu's hand. To be precise, it was a photocopy of the one in Xia Yu's hand. Science magic is an unfinished book that can be copied infinitely. Everyone can fill it with things, but only Xia Yu can print it. So that's how it is. No wonder you know me and them. Xia Yu glanced at the silent Roman, and he had already made up his mind. Although Xia Yu sealed his nearly omniscient calculation, which prevented him from knowing everything invisibly, his IQ was also very high, and the calculation was only transformed from a permanent passive to an active one without monoconsumption and no cooldown, not unusable. In this world, the place where the servants are, that is, the Hall of Heroes, or the seat, is a place without time and is also connected to endless time. This Jingu, assassin, and Roman should be from the future, and it seems that they have met Xia Yu in the future. And Jingu seems to be his daughter? That's right, Jingu is of course a girl, although he looks very neutral. It's actually just the story of the cup injury, and the outer robe is too wide. If it is a little tighter, it can still be seen. As for how Xia Yu saw it? Are you kidding? There's still something Xia Yu can see? Xia Yu recalled Jingu's self-introduction, the offspring of the mother goddess of creation and pure humans, mother goddess of creation. Isn't Tiamat, who was lying on Xia Yu's legs and swinging her legs, the one? As for pure humans? Xia Yu also roughly knew what was going on. Let me see the future possibilities of this book first. Although it is said that the old father should go down when his daughter is bullied, Xia Yu really doesn't have much father-daughter affection now. Instead, he cares more about his future Tao. It's that book. He wants to see the power of that book. Every copy of science magic is an extension of Xia Yu's Tao. He can see his future self through this book. Roar! The scarlet eyes, under the high-speed movement of Berserker, pulled out a blood-red light, and the pitch-black sword blade seemed to swallow up the moonlight. Miscellaneous cultivator, I won't touch you again, just drown like this. Jingu waved his hand, and the magic book in front of him opened quickly, and the pages of the book turned quickly. In an instant, a huge ceremony that required tens of thousands of magicians to perform was launched. Space was distorted, particles were swallowed up, and the world was like a hole that was constantly absorbing the inside. Berserker's heavy armor was distorted, cracks appeared one after another, and even if he sprinted at full speed, he could not escape this force. Hey! What is that? Waver's body was sucked up. And Ryder grabbed his hand to prevent him from being sucked in. Kingu girl, don't be surprised, I will explain it to them, no problem, Kingu replied casually, tapping the pages of the book with his fingers, and big magic was activated one by one. Electromagnetic force condensed, forming lightning bolts that hit Berserker. Atoms collapsed and fissioned, which was equivalent to the explosion of extremely small nuclear bombs. In a short moment, Berserker was in a desperate situation. An assassin began his explanation. This is the way of magic created by Kingu's father. It calculates the laws of all things in the world and interferes with them through magic, or what he calls personal reality, causing the original laws to deviate from the track, causing collapse, or using its natural power to attack the enemy. What kind of magic is that? Have you heard of it, kid? Ryder asked his master. No, I have never heard of it. Are you really a magician, kid? But I have never heard of it. What personal reality? What magic? Although Waver cannot be said to be an excellent magician, he can definitely be called a knowledgeable magician, especially for magic. Although he does not know how to do it, he knows a little bit about most of it. But as Assassin said, the magic used by Kingu is really unheard of by him. Lancer was also quietly consulting his master. Coming from the Clock Tower Monarch, the head of the largest faction, El Malloy, Kenneth had never heard of this kind of magic. That is magic that can destroy everything, a force that can turn everything upside down, and a path that transforms omniscience into omnipotence. Even in my prime, I can't fight King Kong in this state and gain the upper hand. Assassin's narration was slow and heavy, and it also revealed his own strength. Damn. Is Tasuka Tokiyami's servant so powerful? Retreat. Berserker. Matao Koriya's face was extremely gloomy, but he was no longer reckless. He still needed Berserker now, so he couldn't abandon it. Roar Berserker glanced at King Kong, then turned into a spirit particle and retreated. There was no escape. Under the attraction of the black hole, even the spirit particle could not escape smoothly. Go to hell, this sentence appeared in King Kong's mind, and the action was about to be completed. The black hole further strengthened, like a glutton opening its huge mouth, as if to swallow everything. Command it with a command seal. When it was time to cut it off, Matao Koriya immediately used the command seal, and through the powerful magic in the command seal, he formed a great magic of space teleportation. Want to leave? Cut it off. The magic structure was distorted, and the great magic of space dissipated. Damn it, the space on the left of Jingu exploded instantly, and I stared at Jingu, and tentacles stretched out towards Jingu. Filthy evil god? The tentacles exploded, and filthy blood splashed everywhere. An invisible shield resisted the blood, and the figure in the space was exposed. Who are you? The moment Jingu saw that person, she also felt a breath at the same time. Both the person and the breath were very familiar. She was stunned for a moment. Command it with a command seal. The second great magic of space was activated, Berserker fled, and the space quickly closed, and Matao Koriya also disappeared in the crack. Jingu was able to kill 2 people just now, but she knew that person, and that breath. HMPH. Teacher, Kingu is already using his full strength. I fucking know, I'm at the scene. What can I do? The command spells don't work, Tasuka Tokiyami yelled with tears in his eyes. Please recommend. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 80, Fateful Encounter. It seems that this is it. No one will come. Archer, Assassin, and that Berserker are really eye-opening in their strength. Okay, I'll leave first. After Berserker escaped, Ryder decided to slip away. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Archer, Assassin, and even Lancer who didn't make a move seemed to be much stronger than him. He might as well run away first. Assassin disappeared without a trace. Farewell. Archer, I hope to fight you, Lancer said very sincerely, and then his body turned into a spirit and left. Ryder also drove the chariot away. Archer was left behind with the ruined Tasuka mansion. That feeling, is that woman, that evil woman also in this earth? She likes to play with people's hearts as always. If it weren't for my father, I would definitely kill you. Jingu retreated unhappily, with an ugly face. Just now, she remembered a woman she hated, who was also one of her stepmothers, but she really didn't get along with her. Tasuka Tokiyami, you are so brave. You dare to use the command seal to order me? There will be no next time. After Jingu finished scolding, he left here. If it were someone else, she would not say a word of nonsense. The only people in this world who can order her are her father and the mother goddess. It's just that Tasuka Tokiyami's identity is a bit special, so Jingu let him go. And the director of this time, he paid a huge price for his fake play. After a long time of operation, the mansion that was like a fortress turned into ruins, and his servants became unhappy with him. And he also discovered a huge hidden danger, that is, Jingu was not afraid of the command seal. The command seal could not check and balance him, which meant that even if he relied on Jingu to the end, he could not get the Holy Grail. As for why Jingu didn't turn against him completely, he thought it was because Jingu still relied on him to provide magic power. And Jingu would naturally not be here with Tasuka Tokiyami at this moment. Sister Jean, where are we going? You don't want me to sleep on the street? The childish voice of a young girl came from the streets of Fuayuki City. Lennis, stop being naughty. I won't let you live on the street. Let's go to church. A broad-minded girl dressed in a uniform similar to that of a student was pulling up Lennis helplessly. Church? I don't want to go. God will definitely purify me. Lennis started to make a fuss. No, as long as you sincerely repent, the Lord will forgive you, Joan of Arc said very seriously. It seemed that her overly serious personality made her completely unaware that Lennis was just fooling around. Lennis suddenly became quiet. She was very bored. Joan of Arc was too boring, which made her completely unhappy. Joan of Arc's expression changed. She quickly pulled Lennis and protected her behind her, looking ahead vigilantly. The faint purple halo kept shaking, and the figure of a man was exposed under the street light. Behind the man, there was a series of children holding hands. The children's eyes were dull, as if they were puppets being manipulated, and they moved along with the man's actions. This scene was just like the Pied Piper of Hamelin in a horror fairy tale. A person with special powers controlled the children and drove them forward. Oh, the man saw Jean and the other two, and his face was exposed in the light. It was Caster Bluebeard's master, Ryunosuke Uzumaki. His eyes were extremely pure, just like a child who saw something interesting. He smiled and asked Jean and Lennis behind him very enthusiastically, "You two, we are planning to have a party. Are you interested in joining us?" His words caused a reaction from the bracelet on his hand that was emitting a faint purple light. The halo spread, making his words full of mystery, making the original simple words seem to have turned into devil's temptation that hit the soul directly. Lennis took 2 steps back, covering her eyes with both hands. Through the gaps between her fingertips, you can see her eyes that seem to be burned. Magic eye. This is the gift of mystery, the manifestation of mystery, a treasure that is almost priceless, and a collection that all magicians peek at. Magic eyes are divided into normal, gold, gem, rainbow eye, also known as the Eye of God, and Lennis's magic eyes can only be evaluated as normal at present, because these magic eyes have not been completely released, and their current function is only to sense magic power, and they are accompanied by pain. Lioness, Joan of Arc went to support her worriedly. "I'm fine, he is a magician, be careful." Lennis stared at Ryunosuke Uzumaki through her fingers with red eyes. Any magician is an extremely dangerous character, especially when they first meet. There are many cases of first-time killing among magicians. When meeting for the first time, being plotted against by the other party with unique means, even if it is much stronger, will be life-threatening. I know, the light shone from Joan of Arc's body, as if dozens of paladins cast holy light on Joan of Arc, blocking all vision. The light dissipated, and Joan of Arc was wearing silver-white armor, a helmet shaped like a horseshoe, and holding a flag embroidered with a cross and the French emblem, on a white background. You, are you the same person as the master?" Ryunosuke immediately raised his arm, and the command seal on the back of his hand was immediately activated. "Ryunosuke, if you encounter an enemy similar to me, do not hesitate, use the command seal to find me immediately." This is what his Bluebeard master told him. "Master Bluebeard," Ryunosuke shouted, and the command seal on his hand lit up with a blood-red halo, and the space jump comparable to the great magic was activated. The black filthy wind swept through the basement, and the extremely twisted and filthy feeling filled every inch of land. "Ryunosuke, what's wrong?" A disgusting and weird voice came from the black fog, and one point lit up a turbid blood-red light. "You are." Jean stared at the man who walked out of the black fog. A very smooth and young face, big eyes and smooth cheeks that are always moving flexibly, and a wide robe decorated with gold and silver, holding a magic book emitting a strange red light in his hand. Yes, he is Caster Bluebeard Gilles de Rice. Gilles de Rice? How could it be? Joan of Arc looked at the man with great surprise, the glorious knight who had followed her and fought for France. At this moment, the glory of the past turned into a bubble, and the filthy and evil breath came to her face. The big round eyes were full of greed and evil. And the only thing that seems to remain unchanged is Joan of Arc. Oh. My holy girl, for Joan of Arc's fanatical love. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 81 The Judge's Call. Gilles de Rice, what are you doing? Joan of Arc had a gloomy face, holding a flag, and her eyes were fixed on Ryunosuke Uzumaki behind Giles, and even on the children. Oh, my holy girl. Giles ignored Joan of Arc, just sobbing as if he was very sad. He grabbed his hair with both hands. The expression that had been very happy just now suddenly changed dramatically to an extremely embarrassed and dejected look. The change was so fast that it could be called moody. And this look always reminded Cain of the words of the trembling brain, "It's me. I am your most loyal servant Giles de Rice forever. I have always prayed for your resurrection, sincerely looking forward to such a miracle, and have been waiting for the day when I can meet you again. I came here for this purpose." Joan of Arc, it seems to be your fanatic. Sister Joan of Arc, Lannis's eyes burned like a raging fire, and the strong magic fluctuations caused a strong reaction in her magic eyes. At this moment, it is no exaggeration to say that her eyes are really like being burned by flames. However, despite such pain, she still smiled, which was the most sincere happiness from human beings, named joy. Stop talking nonsense. What should I do with your eyes? Joan's eyes were still fixed on Giles, but through her peripheral vision, she also saw Lannis, who was now fiery-eyed and golden-eyed. It's okay, it's an old problem, I'll take some medicine, it'll be fine. Lannis smiled and took out a bottle of medicine similar to eye drops and dripped it on her eyes. The potion was evenly distributed on the eyes, and the cool and comfortable feeling gradually spread to the whole body, and the burning sensation in the eyes was gradually extinguished. This is a magic potion that can suppress the magic eye and magic power. Lannis has always maintained her magic eye that ran away from time to time in this way. Joan of Arc. I must have moved God with my sincerity. No. God was afraid of my blasphemy, ha 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 ha. For this great victory, I will use more beautiful blasphemy to intimidate God. Giles screamed crazily, and he turned around suddenly, accompanied by a crisp snap of his fingers. The lifelessness in the children's eyes added a bit of confusion. They looked around in confusion and doubt, not knowing why they were here. Okay, children, let's play a game. 10 seconds, 10 seconds you can run away. Once you are caught by me, Giles put his hand on a child's head, and the fluctuation of magic power emanated. It will be like this. The head exploded, blood mixed with brain matter burst out, and the child's headless body fell to the ground with a bang. The children screamed in horror and instinctively fled in all directions. Giles, Joan of Arc's beautiful face was filled with unspeakable anger, and she roared. Everything in front of her was simply unbelievable. Her former comrade, from a noble knight, had fallen into such a disgusting posture. She was very angry. She didn't care about Giles' betrayal of the Lord, nor did she care about his crazy posture. But she couldn't forgive Giles for what he did, pouring his anger and ugliness on innocent people. Please sit down and enjoy the banquet of death and madness I prepared for you, Giles shouted madly. Swish, the flag cut through the air and lashed towards Giles fiercely. But a monster with tentacles suddenly emerged from the book in Giles' hands and blocked this awe-inspiring slap. The monster was shattered, and pieces of flesh and blood splattered everywhere, splashing on Giles' face, adding 2 points of blood to its already weird posture. Oh, do you want to participate in it too? Then, come on. The black fog formed a tornado, which repelled Jean, and the bodies of Giles and Ryunosuke disappeared on the spot. Jean stayed where she was with a grim expression. There was a problem. The children had just been frightened by Giles, and instinctively fled to their homes, while Giles' familiars began to hunt them. Jean was alone, and the children were scattered. It was difficult for Jean to protect everyone. In that case, Jean's eyes became firm, and the pattern on her back, which was composed of command seals and looked like wings, also lit up red. I am the judge. Jean. I am the judge of this Holy Grail war. I request the support of all masters and servants to protect the children being hunted by the evil demon caster Giles de Rice. Judge? Jean? It's so confusing. Xia Yu shook his head. Jean's voice was transmitted to the masters and servants except Giles and Ryunosuke through the Holy Grail system. How is it going, Roman? Although I hate trouble, but I'm going to go out this time. Old Otaku Roman went out because of his love for his child. Boy, let's go. Iskander and Waver, who were driving illegally, immediately responded to Jean's request for help. Although they were also curious about this so-called judge, the Holy Grail system told them that it was right, and some images were also transmitted to their minds, so... the king driving the thunder chariot, with his concubine, began to execute justice. Okay, Saber, on the outskirts of Fuyuki City, a car was arriving in Fuyuki City. The two people in the car were Saber and Iris Veal, who were rushing to the chariot. Iris Veal, who was driving, immediately stepped on the accelerator and sped away quickly. Master? You are not going to stop me. At the door of the church, Assassin looked at Katamine Kairi standing at the door and said. How could that be? After all, I am also a believer. How could I stop you? That's good. The assassin in heavy armor, holding his two-handed sword that looked like a door panel, went out. Child? Tisk. Who cares? A certain tsundere girl who was wandering on the street jumped directly to the rooftop, and with her eagle-like vision, she scanned the entire city, Looking for the so-called child. Child? Whatever. This is also a good opportunity to send Castor out. Go. Berserker. With more than 37% of the damage to the body, the flow of magic power is reduced, and the servant's attributes are also reduced. Even so, are you still going? Nyarlathotep said to Mataukaria, who was about to go out with some joking. Of course I'm going, Mataukaria responded with a firm tone. Please recommend. Please vote for the monthly ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82. A child. Who Haruko was running in the alley. She was originally sleeping at home, but somehow she came to the street, and there were a group of children around. Then, she saw a priest dressed in fancy clothes, full of evil and chaos, crushing a person's head. At that time, her mind was blank, and she instinctively began to flee. When she came to her senses, she was alone. Not only Haruko, but the original more than 10 children had completely scattered. It seemed that they had already fled far away, but she still did not dare to stop. A police car passed by and saw Haruko, who had just run out of the alley, and immediately stopped on the side of the road. 2 police officers got out of the car and said to Haruko, "Child, come here, why are you still outside so late? Where are your parents?" Recently, there have been large-scale child disappearances and cult sacrifices in Fuyuki City and its surrounding areas, so the police will patrol quite intensively at night. After Haruko saw the 2 police officers, as the object that gives ordinary people a sense of security, she naturally approached them instinctively. "Uncle, there is a murderer, come on, don't be afraid, talk slowly, uncles are here." The 2 police officers looked at each other, and saw the blood on Haruko's skirt. According to her words, their eyes fixed, and one police officer pulled out a pistol from the gun bag on his waist. The other police officer smiled and comforted Haruko's emotions. "There's a priest, he crushed a person's head, but after all, she is a child, and it is not easy to speak at this moment. It's okay, don't be afraid. Uncles are here." The police officer who comforted Haruko's emotions signaled the armed police officer with his eyes. The armed police officer slowly approached the alley. They did not believe that there was a priest who crushed a person's head, unless it was a baby, but the murderer the child said should be true. The armed police officer raised the pistol and turned on the flashlight. When he shone it, there was nothing in the alley except the trash can. The police officer did not relax his vigilance directly, but slowly approached the inside with a flashlight and a pistol. Squeak! A strange sound suddenly came out, and the police officer instinctively turned around and shone the flashlight. Did the wind blow something? Just as he was wondering, there was a sound of something falling behind him. Squeak bang! Gunshots accompanied by screams came from the alley. Another police officer opened the car door, put Haruko in, pulled out his pistol, and approached quickly with the flashlight on. When he arrived outside the alley, through the light, he saw a monster that looked like a combination of a starfish and an octopus, with 8 tentacles, but with disgusting spines like a starfish, and a body dominated by purple and black. The twisted and deformed monster ripped open his colleague's belly. "Asshole!" Bang bang! The flames from the muzzle illuminated the alley, and the bullet quickly cut through the air and pierced the monster's body, and purple-black blood splattered on the wall. But the monster was still moving, and the gaps made by the bullets were restored to their original state between the intertwined small tentacles. The monster moved quickly, climbing up the wall, flying over the eaves, and constantly changing its 8 legs at an incredibly fast speed. Bang bang bang! The police officer kept firing his gun. Some bullets hit the target, some did not, but no matter what, it could not affect the monster's movements. Caw, no more bullets. Squeak. Haruko squatted in the back seat of the car, holding her head and curled up. The sound of gunfire and strange screams resounded. Suddenly, everything was quiet. She did not look up, still waiting. Time passed slowly, and there was no sound outside. Haruko finally couldn't resist her curiosity and raised her head. A black monster was sticking to the car window glass and looking at her, with densely packed eyeballs and scarlet pupils constantly rotating in all directions. At the moment Haruko screamed, it stared at her intently. At that moment, another child suffered from intensive phobia. Thousands of eyes were tightly locked on Haruko. Sound value dropped. Then, bang, the monster began to smash the car. Every attack of the monster caused a bulge inside the police car. It seemed to be smashing the car regularly, and each time it was just a little slower than the previous one. It has to be admitted that there is a kind of master, and there is a kind of familiar. It wants to scare Haruko. Facts have proved. It succeeded. Haruko's heartbeat has been consistent with the frequency of his car smashing, and her heart seems to jump out of her throat. This is a dream. How can there be such a monster? I must still be sleeping at home. Is there anyone who can save me? Tears, accompanied by the fear in her heart, shouted. And the sky seemed to respond to her call for help, and a thunderbolt fell on the monster. The terrifying high temperature of the thunderbolt instantly turned the monster into a piece of charcoal, and with this twist, the charcoal was condensed into powder. I didn't expect that, Master. You actually took action yourself. Didn't you have an agreement with her? What are you afraid of? If you dare to talk too much, just kill her. Tisk tisk tisk. I found my father. Well, I should say that my mother is tough. I prefer to call her a backer. Bang, Xia Yu directly pulled down the car door that was deformed by the monster. Is it a god? The dreamy appearance and the thunder he just cast made King Xia misunderstand Xia Yu's identity, but it didn't matter. For her, at this moment, Xia Yu was a god. Xia Yu smiled and stretched out his hand. King Xia's spirit was no longer tense. She instinctively showed a reassuring smile and shook the hand that Xia Yu stretched out. Xia Yu instantly pinched King Xia's shoulder, and a magic power came out, and she fainted directly. Hey, be gentle to the girl. Why are you different from the one I know? You are not always. What is it? I won't tell you. Hell, I probably know, but this child is not from our world. It's better for her to just forget about it. Xia Yu knew what kind of deal he was, but as he said, this child is still suitable for ordinary life. Really, this caster, really, makes me angry. What do you think, Roman? That's right, Jill de Rice. It seems that I have to deal with you personally. I can't let you tarnish my former glory. Roman recalled the French marshal who had helped him, and looked at the demon who had fallen into evil at this moment. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 83 Art? Woo woo papa. The axe hit the wooden door again and again, and the child hiding in the dilapidated warehouse kept making whimpering sounds. Moonlight continued to pour into the warehouse, and along with the moonlight there was a round, smooth and somewhat deformed face. Johnny the Piglet? I'm coming in. Stop. Giles. Joan of Arc held Lannis in one hand and waved a flag in the other. She jumped up, with the flag in her hand fluttering, and smashed it down brazenly. A black mist enveloped Giles, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot and appeared about 10 feet away. Oh my holy girl. You are still so beautiful. How do you feel? This gorgeous banquet, Jill, you have fallen into the evil way. Stop. Don't tarnish your past glory. Joan of Arc pointed the flag at Giles, her eyes full of anger and disappointment. She could not forgive her former comrade-in-arms. She was not representing God, but representing people. Humans would not forgive the villains who committed crimes against children. Oh Joan of Arc, it's great, it's really great to see you again, but I want to free you from God's control and let you regain your freedom. Giles' face showed a crazy posture, and her eyeballs popped out like a frog. Bang, blood burst out from the warehouse on the right, and the blood splashed on Joan of Arc's fair and delicate face. An octopus-like monster pounced on Joan of Arc with its fangs and claws. Squeak! The flag in her hand pierced the monster like a spear, nailing it directly to death. Joan of Arc was silent, and looked at Giles. At this moment, there was no more pity and mercy in her eyes, only anger. Jill, Joan of Arc roared. This was her unprecedented anger. Even if she was burned to death in the name of betraying God, even if she was betrayed by the country, she would not be so angry. That's it. Joan of Arc. Enjoy this feast. Ho 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 ho! The black fog enveloped Giles again, and her figure disappeared. Really? Enjoy killing? This method makes me sick even though I think I am born a bad person. Most magicians exist to move forward for the root, but the root is too far away. To become a magician, you need to make efforts far beyond ordinary people, and to reach the root, you need to make efforts far beyond magicians. The biggest obstacle is not the enemy, nor talent, but loneliness. 1 day, 10 days, 100 days, a year, 10 years. Magicians must remember their dream of pursuing the root and keep moving forward. On this road, No one will accompany you, and the long loneliness is enough to twist everything together. Spirit, thought, body, and even ideals. The essence of magic lies in accumulation, so the older the magic family, the more powerful it is. The longer they live, the more powerful the magician is. For the magic family, time will distort the ideal and turn it into obsession, like a maggot attached to the bone, entangled in each generation of heirs. For the magician, after living for a long time, loneliness will distort his will, and the so-called reason will also become the obsession that supports his life. He will be distorted by this obsession and turned into a monster. However, there are ways to alleviate loneliness. Although the road of magic is lonely, as a human being, there is a way to alleviate loneliness, called pleasure. And the best way to get pleasure is to watch others suffer. The ancient magicians are no longer bound by morality. They will try their best to appreciate the suffering of others, and even create the suffering of others, so as to bring pleasure to themselves. Atlantis is a natural magician. She seems to have no so-called moral values since she was born. She is very keen to appreciate the suffering of others to bring pleasure to herself. If this is an art, then Atlantis is a natural artist, and the practice that she hates is undoubtedly disgusting grandstanding. Magicians have no moral concepts, they don't care about life, and even need. They will even take the initiative to create killings. However, they will not create meaningless killings, and killing will not make them feel happy. This is not the so-called bottom line of evil people, but simply the master of art looks down on the clowns who are grandstanding. At this moment, in Linus's eyes, Giles is a clown who is grandstanding, and a very disgusting and inexperienced clown. Not only can he not make people laugh, but he will also make people feel sick. And at this moment in a sewer. It stinks. Ryder, is that Giles here? Based on the magic breath he felt by chance, Weber should have found the base of Giles and Ryunasuk by the water flow. To be honest, the smell here is really strong, and the fishy smell is so strong that it chokes people. Weber mobilized his magic power and prepared to perform a simple light magic and observe the surroundings. But a hand covered his eyes, and then he heard Iskander's somewhat heavy voice, "Boy, I advise you not to look. What are you talking about? If that Giles is not here, wouldn't it be better to observe and find clues?" Since Iskander did not take precautions against the servant, it proved that Giles was not here, so as a master, it is natural to conduct further tracking. Boy, although you say that, forget it. This is not something you can bear. What are you talking about? Weber retorted unconvincedly and performed illumination magic. The capsule in his hand burned green flames. He threw it hard, and the flames were attached to the ceiling, illuminating the surroundings. Weber jumped off the chariot and began to patrol. He took a step forward, and blood splashed on Weber's face. Ugh, the blood covered the cement floor, and even formed a pool of blood. The bodies of the children who were tortured to the point that they could not be seen were soaked in blood. It was just as Iskander said. This was beyond what Weber could bear at the moment. Really, it's annoying. Ripples appeared in the pool of blood, and footsteps followed. Taking a closer look, it was a man whom Weber did not recognize. Compared with his ordinary appearance, that man was beyond description. Is it Ryder and his master? You have quite a flexible nose. Be careful, kid, he is very dangerous. Are you Castor? Iskander instinctively felt a sense of crisis. It was like an ordinary person being pointed at with a gun in the back. It felt like a chrysanthemum being stabbed by an ice cone on a cold day. Please recommend. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 84 Working Together. Hello, Mr. Iskander Alexander. When mentioning Iskander's last name, Xia Yu paused for a moment. He recalled that the chairman seemed to have the same last name. I am not Castor, but Castor's master. Strictly speaking, I am Castor's master, King Solomon. King Solomon. Is that King Solomon who controls the 72 demon gods? Weber asked in surprise. This name is one of the most famous people in the world. Others who are equally famous include King Arthur of Britain, Emperor Nero of Rome, the first Emperor of Qin, Emperor Wu of Han, Emperor Wu of Wei, Emperor Taizong of Tang, Emperor Yongle of Ming, and the conqueror King Alexander the Great around him. In short, there are many, but compared to the numerous heroes, they are few. The most legendary thing about King Solomon is undoubtedly the 72 demons he controlled. In the field of mysticism, their status is so high that they can be called the ancestor of magic. If it is really King Solomon, and he comes as Castor, then it is not good news for Weber and all the groups participating in the Holy Grail War. Well, not really. He can no longer control those demons, well, or he doesn't want to control them. Anyway, he is not much different from a useless person, when Xia Yu was openly slandering Roman. Well, that's too much? Although what you said is true, the ritual-level magic that requires dozens of modern magicians to perform a ritual for more than 7 days was unfolded, and a tunnel was opened in the space, and Roman walked over from there. Hello. I'm Roman, a doctor, no longer King Solomon, and you don't have to look down on me too much. I only know a little magic, Roman scratched his head and said modestly. I don't believe you, Weber complained in his heart. If Roman's appearance was a little more ordinary, he would still be skeptical, but with a great magic behind him that did not collapse for a long time, it had a taste of Versailles. However, when the few people communicated, the original discomfort also subsided a lot. Okay. Very good. How dare the dog who doesn't know how to live or die to act recklessly in my courtyard? Roman. I'll leave this dog to you after you kill it. I have to talk to its owner. Xia Yu glanced around. Although the fire had just gone out, the scene here was still in Xia Yu's eyes. There was nothing to say, just pure anger. Xia Yu was not a good person, and he didn't like children, especially noisy children. Regarding the death of these children, he was probably in an attitude of indifference. Just like seeing how miserable the children of a certain country were on the internet, he would just glance over it because it had nothing to do with him. But what he couldn't tolerate was, something else was causing trouble in his courtyard. Although the manager of Fuyuki is Toshimi Tasaka, everything is decided by strength. In Xia Yu's blueprint here, Fuyuki City and even the surrounding areas are already in his territory. He wants to build a city here, a new college city. At this moment, a dog entered his courtyard, trampled on the lawn, and bit the life in his courtyard to death. At this time, it is natural to follow the routine rules, kill the dog and find the owner. The dog is not important, but it must be let die, otherwise it will be unhappy, and the owner must be found. Let it go. Sometimes it is also a sin. This time, you don't need to say it, my master, Roman is a true sage. Both in terms of concept and behavior. Although he always wants to be lazy, he has been working hard for others. This time, he can't stand Giles doing whatever he wants. He doesn't allow to let Giles do whatever he wants. This is not only a guarantee for people's safety, but also the last respect for Giles. Okay, Xia Yu nodded, and his body disappeared here directly. Compared with Roman's space magic, his space jump is indeed more low-key and convenient. So, you two, can you please cooperate with me? I want to perform a huge magic that can cover the entire Fuyuki to capture the location of Jill DeRice. After Xia Yu left, Roman said to Weber in his candor. Hearing Roman's words, Weber exclaimed in disbelief, cover the entire city? How? Weber suddenly took back his words. He found that the person in front of him was not an ordinary magician, but the greatest magician in the mysterious world, the ancestor of magic, and the king who was said to control the 72 pillars of demons, Solomon. For a normal magician, to perform a magic that can cover the city in an unfamiliar city, at least about 300 excellent magicians must be prepared, and a large amount of mystical materials such as mercury must be used, and it will take a month to perform. And strictly speaking, it is a magic barrier supported by the earth veins. The magicians are only responsible for preparing materials and providing magic power to open the door. Therefore, Weber felt that what Solomon said was unlikely. But after all, he is one of the ancestors of Western mysticism, and the most important one. It doesn't feel incredible to do such a thing. Okay. Boy, come on. Get in the car. Roman, right? How can we help you? Iskander didn't hesitate and directly expressed his intention to help. Please borrow the chariot and take me around Fuyuki City. Magic is not magic after all. If Roman wants to perform observation magic that can cover every corner of the city in a hurry, he still needs a simple preparation. He needs to patrol the entire Fuyuki, set up a few simple formations, and spread the magic power in the air. Then he uses the air to form a pseudo-barrier with magic power, and he will maintain the barrier to find Giles's location. Okay. At this moment, Jingu's chain spanned most of Fuyuki, shot and killed an octopus sea demon, and saved another child. He stood on one of the highest points in Fuyuki, the Fuyuki TV tower, and his eyes swept across the streets of most of Fuyuki. He kept saving children and innocent passers-by through the chain, and then, through simple ultra-long-range hints, he made them go home and sleep. The MVP who saved the child tonight was undoubtedly Jin Gulating's ox cart flew past his sight, and the third person standing on the ox cart made her eyes shrink. King Solomon? No, it's Roman? What happened to him? Could it be? Jingu jumped up from the top of the tower and shuttled between cities through the chain. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 85, Nyarlathotep's having. My friend, you broke the covenant. But I am more curious about. Why did you turn against me at this time? Are you sure you can eat me? Or is it just an unwise move on your part? In the vast starry sky, a wall made of a crystal structure encloses the entire solar system. Outside is endless nothingness, and in this nothingness, it seems that you can still see shining stars. Those may be other worlds. Outside this crystal wall, a behemoth that is comparable to the density and energy of a star floats outside the crystal wall, talking to the tiny existence in the crystal wall. The difference in surface size between the two is even greater than that between an ant and a planet, but for the two, the so-called surface size is already so-called. If you want, Xia Yu can also become that huge. Your dog was too presumptuous, so I will naturally settle accounts with you as its master. If people want to settle accounts, they will naturally settle with people, and dogs must be killed. It is okay to give obedient dogs the status of friends, but disobedient vicious dogs will only die. Oh? Is that so? Then it's up to you. What do you want? Nyarlathotep didn't care, neither the so-called excessive presumption nor Xia Yu's questioning. This was just a little extra game for him. Even if Xia Yu killed Giles directly, it didn't matter. His favorite actor clown was Matao Korea. He was actually very similar to Awis. Both of them were qualified audience members. If each world was set as the Colosseum in ancient Rome, then they were all nobles sitting high in the audience, taking the people below as bets, and even personally looking for people to fight. Even if those people performed well, they might even give them some care. Xia Yu, on the other hand, was more like the manager of the Colosseum. In this arena, no matter if they were lackeys of dignitaries or ordinary slaves, they had to follow the rules. He would even confront them personally. He didn't care about dignitaries or slaves. In his arena, only his own people could break the rules. The current situation was almost like a tit for tat between a great noble and a black boss. The great noble was fearless and thought that the black boss in front of him could not do anything to him. So he expressed an attitude of so what, if Xia Yu really couldn't do anything to him, then Xia Yu would undoubtedly become a joke. And coincidentally, if he hadn't had the means, Xia Yu wouldn't have come. One step. Xia Yu crossed the crystal wall. Although the two seemed to be separated by only a crystal wall just now, in fact, there was a gap of nearly light years. And the so-called distance was just a concept for the two, a trivial concept. The light wings spread out behind him, extending nearly light years away, and the end disappeared in the universe, as if connecting to another world. Xia Yu's temperament changed drastically, his eyes turned into red gold, and his short hair didn't grow long, turning into waist-length hair. Nyarlathotep's huge body didn't seem to react, but Xia Yu knew that he had entered a state of intense combat readiness. This was a conceptual exchange, and for them, appearance was even more illusory. Snap! Xia Yu snapped his fingers, and his right hand made a grabbing motion towards Nyarlathotep. What? Nyarlathotep felt his suffocation in an instant, and his body was restrained invisibly. It was like a restraint that strangled his throat. It was a restraint from the root. Xia Yu had studied part of Nyarlathotep's essence in Nyarlathotep's down payment, and through this part of the essence, Xia Yu used calculations to carry out targeted attacks. However, this was the only effect he could achieve. It was impossible to cause any damage to him, or to control him for a long time. However, this short-term control was enough. The world changed, and the world at the end of Xia Yu's light wings quickly eroded and replaced the original void. Strictly speaking, it just appeared in the void. It quickly enveloped Nyarlathotep. An illusory world? Interesting, but it doesn't mean anything to me. Nyarlathotep broke free from Xia Yu's restraints, and his huge body moved. Tentacles extended from his body, and the tentacles turned into dragons and bit towards Xia Yu. Every bite was enough to crush a lifeless, unconscious, and non-special planet. Thunder condensed from Xia Yu's right hand, turned into a spear and threw it directly. Thunder tore through the illusory space, and after piercing the first dragon, it scattered into arcs and shattered the other dragons. This thunder is the calculation thunder, which contains the power of Xia Yu's calculation. Its ability is to cause collapse to the results that have been calculated. And the essence of Nyarlathotep is existence. It is a simple existence, and its power is just like this word. Whether it is the so-called non-existent matter or non-existent species, they all exist. There is no non-existence, all exist. And his creation, even Xia Yu's calculation, is difficult to understand. If it were not for the down payment given by Nyarlathotep, it would be basically impossible for Xia Yu to deal with him. For an existence like Xia Yu, his own law is inseparable from the Tao, that is, his own essence. For example, Xia Yu's scientific magic and Yu's shadow are all projections of Xia Yu's human reason and calculation. And Nyarlathotep's so-called knowledge also carries his existence. Therefore, Xia Yu's calculation thunder can have an effect on him. Roar horror, hideous, evil, sacred. At the moment when Nyarlathotep roared, his voice was like an endless thing roaring, and various voices intertwined to form this indescribable sound. Eyes opened in the imaginary space, and along with the sound, Nyarlathotep's existence was eroding this space. As the illusory water flowed, everything returned to the beginning. If it was just the imaginary space, it would naturally not be able to resist Nyarlathotep's invasion, but under Xia Yu's operation, it was washed away smoothly. Humph, you can't kill me, and you can't do anything to me at all. Yes. Just me, that's right, Xia Yu chuckled, and he won the battle. The huge body stretched out from the illusory water, and a right hand like white jade grabbed Nyarlathotep. In the waterfall formed by the illusory water sliding down from his head, Nyarlathotep saw a pair of eyes reflecting the sea of stars. At the same time, Xia Yu decisively took action, with the thunder of calculation in his right hand and the fire of humanity in his left hand, and greeted Nyarlathotep fiercely. Chapter 86 The Devil's Worldview. Too much? Too much? How dare you do this to the art that we poured our souls into? Is this something a human would do? In the workshop destroyed by his candor, Uri Ryunosuke fell to his knees and cried bitterly. He looked at the ruins around him, tears streaming down his face. Those who didn't know would think that his father was buried in it. Ryunosuke. Only a small number of people can understand beauty and harmony. For most humans, beauty is something to be destroyed. So we can't have too much love for our creations. Once something is given a form, it will eventually be destroyed. It's better to say that we creators should feel happy in the process of creation. Giles helped his master up and comforted him. Are you saying that we just need to recreate those that have been destroyed? Uri Ryunosuke said with tears on his face. That's right. Ryunosuke. You can always understand other people's words directly. This is your virtue, Giles smiled, and his originally terrifying face turned as kind as a priest. Ryunosuke wiped his tears, stood up, looked at the ruins around him and said, is it because we expected too much that we got retribution? Hey, Giles suddenly grabbed Ryunosuke's shoulders with both hands and made him look at him. You must remember what I'm going to say next, Ryunosuke. God will never punish humans, they only play with humans. Giles' expression became extremely serious, like a scholar speaking the unshakable truth he firmly believed in. Master. Ryunosuke looked at this teacher or friend who shared the same ideals with him in surprise with his red eyes from crying. I have done all the evil and blasphemous things that I could do in the world. But, no matter how much I killed and how much I blasphemed, I was not punished by any god. When I looked back, God had allowed me to walk on the path of exploring evil for 8 years. In the end, it was not God who destroyed me, but the selfishness of being a human being like me. The church and the king sentenced me in the name of conviction. Giles' expression began to gradually become angry, and his eyeballs seemed to bulge out. He continued, they all wanted to usurp the wealth and territory in my hands. What stopped my immoral behavior was not a sanction at all, but naked plunder. But, sir. Even so. God exists. As the dawn arrived, the golden light sprinkled into this hidden corner as Ryunosuke Usuji spoke. Why, you who do not believe in religion and have never seen miracles, would you think so? Giles looked at the man in front of him in disbelief. Because, although this world looks boring, as long as you are good at looking, you can find many interesting and strange things. I have always thought that the world is arranged with so many pleasant things, it is so perfect. Once you want to enjoy it, you will find that there is nothing more interesting than this world. There must be an artist writing this super long story with 5 billion characters. If I were to describe it, I would have to be a god. Ryunosuke Urayu stood up, dancing in the sun, narrating his thoughts with a smile that was as bright as the morning sun. Giles couldn't help but be impressed by his language and spirit. Giles seemed to see the girl from hundreds of years ago, the holy girl who had just left, the girl who was similar to Ryunosuke Urayu but the opposite. He asked that question unconsciously again. Ryunosuke. Then what do you think? Does God love humans? Of course he loves them from the bottom of his heart. He has to keep writing the script for this world. If he doesn't love this world, how can he continue to write? He must be very excited while writing. He is also admiring his own work. God likes human hymns in the name of courage and hope, and he must also like blood splashing, wailing in despair. Otherwise, how could the intestines of living things be so beautiful? So, he must love this world. Ryunosuke Urayu danced with joy and narrated his views. At this moment, he seemed to have the aura of the protagonist and loudly announced the protagonist's speech. Giles' eyes were covered with tears. He was completely conquered by Ryunosuke Urayu. This master who summoned him by chance, this like-minded friend, became his second guide at this moment, a guide to darkness. In this era, the common people have abandoned their faith, and the politicians have also abandoned the will of God. I didn't expect that there is such a fresh and vibrant faith taking root. I am convinced, my master Ryunosuke. Giles bowed to Ryunosuke Urayu as a gentleman. He was impressed by Ryunosuke Urayu from the inside out. Don't be like this. I will be shy. Ryunosuke Urayu scratched his head embarrassedly. But, from your religious point of view, my blasphemy is just a joke, right? Giles said. Think about it. Even if you are a villain, you have to act well. Make people laugh. This is considered a first-class artist, and for your ruthless complaints, God will definitely respond to you by pretending to be stupid. At this moment, Ryunosuke Urayu was like a God messenger, answering the doubts of the believers. Whether it's blasphemy or praise, is it worship to you? Ryunosuke. Your philosophy is really profound. God treats all living beings in the world as his beloved dolls, but is he also a clown? I see. This way we can understand his vicious hobby. I see. Then let's use particularly bright despair and crying tried color to his courtyard. We want to let the directors in heaven understand that God is not the only one who understands entertainment. Cool, so cool. Let's do something even color together. Master Bluebeard, in this dilapidated ruin, the two devils cheered together, cheering for the feast they were about to unfold, a feast of blasphemy and praise of God. You probably don't have a chance. In the darkness, a faint blue flame ignited, and an assassin in heavy armor came here with a sword. He found this place following the movement when Iskander came out, because he thought Castor might come back, so he waited again. Just as Giles opened his mouth, assassin's figure crossed more than 10 meters and came in front of him, holding up the heavy sword from above. Giles had no time to react, but the book in Giles' hand reacted. The dark fog instantly enveloped him and Ryunosuke, and disappeared on the spot. However, one arm fell to the ground, leaving a hand. I'm really old. Assassin glanced at the arm that turned into a spirit, took 2 steps back, and merged into the darkness. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 87 The Clown's Performance. Master Bluebeard, are you okay? Giles and Ryunosuke were teleported dozens of miles away by Giles' treasure, Rayan Castle textbook, almost out of Fuyuki. They came to a pier at the edge of Fuyuki, with the sea on one side and the Fuyuki Pier, Mayan River Pier, on the other side. Blood kept flowing down the broken arm, dyeing the dark-colored and gaudy disgusting cloak on his body into dark red, making it look even more gloomy. It's okay, damn, dirty god. Are you tired of me, a clown? Are you tired of my previous performance? Ho-ha-ho-ha, don't blink. Next. I will definitely open your eyes. Ho-ha-ho-ha. Giles didn't care that his broken arm was still bleeding, and still maintained a crazy posture and shouted to the sky. Oh cool, Ryunosuke cheered on the side. Roman. Stop, Jingu. What do you want? Jingu tied Roman in Iskander's chariot with chains and held it tightly. Why are you here? Roman, Jingu asked directly. She still remembered that in the broken world that was repaired by her father, Roman and some guys in front of her were hostile to her father in the name of restoring human principles. Funny. Her father was the embodiment of human principles. Would he not know whether human principles needed to be repaired? However, her father had a high opinion of them and even gave the cannon fodder who is responsible for the execution an equal status. Humphrey must have taken a fancy to those girls. They are so fickle. Mother doesn't even say to control them. Roman naturally didn't know what Jingu was thinking at this time. To be honest, he didn't really want to see this guy. The specific reason was, in that battle, whether it was Xia Yu or them, they knew what they were protecting and they fought with absolute awareness. And Jingu was really like a child. Whoever was hostile to Xia Yu, he would beat him. It can't be said to be wrong, it just feels troublesome. If we use the RPG adventure game to describe it, she is the kind of monster that can be avoided. Not only is there no benefit in fighting with her, but there is also the risk of casualties, so Roman instinctively doesn't want to face her. Too troublesome. However, it is obviously not so easy to avoid now. Jingu, let go of the chain. Your father asked me to help him do something. You don't want to delay your father's business. As soon as these words came out, Jingu's face really changed. He stopped pulling the ox cart and jumped onto the chariot along the chain. Do you think I will believe you? Jingu actually didn't believe Roman, but she still let go of the chain. She knew that Roman seemed to have a good personal relationship with his father. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, she would not gamble. Of course, the questions that should be questioned, still need to be questioned. Things are a bit complicated, how should I put it? Your father at this time is still your father. Oh, forget it, I'll take you to see it after things are over. It took Roman a long time to figure out the situation. He couldn't explain it to Kingu in a short time. Okay. If I find out that you lied to me, I'll nail you to the wall, Kingu said viciously. Okay, Buzz. Just as Roman was dealing with Kingu, a filthy and twisted magic wave spread from a distance. Instinctively attracted the attention of all servants and even magicians. At this moment, they all looked towards the sea in the east. When the sun was about to peek out from the horizon, the sound of chanting sounded at the Weun River pier. It was an ancient spell, accompanied by a hoarse and gloomy voice, calling for the evil that did not belong to the earth and came from the outside of the world. Giles stood in the middle of the Weun River, chanting an unknown language in his mouth. The world was twisting, everything was changing, and a crazy and weird power enveloped here. This was the only spell Giles knew, and it was also the only ritual spell recorded in the Lorne City textbook that needed to be chanted. The Lorne City textbook with multiple chants and maximum power operation achieved the highest level of summoning magic that modern magicians could hardly achieve in their entire lives, calling on the ancient evil in the universe, the direct followers of the evil god Cthulhu. As the chanting continued, the entire river turned into a different world, and the purple-black fog formed by the filthy magic filled the air, obscuring the moon, the starry sky, and people's vision. Under his feet, there were a terrifying number of demon shadows. Although they looked no different from the demons he summoned, the magic fluctuations they emitted were far superior to those of the miscellaneous soldiers. The fog covering the river was just the aftermath of the demon shadows. The fog gathered on the river, but the magic fluctuations had already spread through the air to the entire Fuyuki city. Every magician and every servant in Fuyuki city felt a sudden pain without any warning. That was the abnormal chaos of the magic power in the surrounding air, which triggered the turbulence of the magic circuit that was in sync with the magic power in the air. There was no need to bother looking for it, the enemy had already stood out openly. At the same time, Jean used her ability as the judgment to see the situation on the sea surface. She immediately notified all the servants and masters through the Holy Grail system. The servant who fell into the Devil's Way, Castor Gilderice, appeared on the easternmost sea level. Please work together to kill him. Now, let us raise the banner of salvation again. The abandoned people, the despised people, gather together. Let me command you. Let me lead you. The resentment of us who have been bullied will soon be conveyed to God. Lord in heaven, I will praise you in the form of rebuke. The number of monsters gathered around the body of the summoner continued to increase. The Luo Yanchang textbook kept operating. Tens of millions of tentacles intertwined and merged with each other, and gradually formed a massive meat. It was simply a bloody sandbar covered with disgusting filthy slime, a flesh island. But the collection of monsters still seemed unsatisfied and continued to expand. The magic fluctuations on Giles' body became stronger and stronger. The dark water surface at his feet suddenly began to surge, and the countless monsters gathered at the summoner's feet slowly extended their tentacles. The tentacles actually gradually swallowed up Giles' robed figure standing above his head. At first glance, the scene in front of him seemed to be Giles' betrayal that caused the attack, but Giles, who was wrapped in a ball of tentacles, not only did not panic, but instead let out a high-pitched, complacent, and sharp laugh that was almost like a foreign sound. God, I wonder if this feast can satisfy you. If Nyarlathotep was still observing, she would probably be very happy and find that this chess piece Giles, who was placed casually, was even more interesting than Metal Korea, who she had been managing for a long time. But, now she was afraid that she had no time to watch, and she couldn't hear Giles' voice. Chapter 88 is about the evil god who makes a living by being funny and develops a bad habit. My compatriots, why do you want to help this alien? Can't you feel the threat of his power to us? In the imaginary space, Nyarlathotep was locked in a small ball by Tiamat. Tiamat put his hands together, one above and one below, and a gray ball trapped Nyarlathotep in it. And long red gold beards entered the ball from a distance and connected to Nyarlathotep's body. At that moment, the sphere was a blank world created by Tiamat. And Tiamat's authority, which is also her most powerful power anti-Genesis, constantly suppressed Nyarlathotep. Everything he created was rejected, and Nyarlathotep could not resist it all. And those long red gold light-winged beards were constantly analyzing the essence and concept of Nyarlathotep. For Nyarlathotep and Tiamat, these special high-level beings, their bodies are the manifestation of their concepts. They are not material, but can only show the effects of matter. Nyarlathotep and Tiamat, strictly speaking, are indeed compatriots. They can both be called Earth Mother Goddesses. Tiamat's life and Nyarlathotep's existence or chaos are all divine powers that reproduce and create all things. As for the threat mentioned by Nyarlathotep, it is naturally the calculation held by Xia Yu. After seeing through the essence, fighting with it will inevitably result in an inevitable result, and even escape is impossible. This is not allowed for any powerful existence. Especially Nyarlathotep is still the kind of playful existence. No, speak, anymore, that's, my, child, since the child, asks me to do this, then I will naturally satisfy, Tiamat said in Chinese, one of the stumbling human languages. This was taught by Xia Yu. With this level of wisdom, it can be said that she can learn it in seconds. However, she is not used to speaking in this way. Child? Are you kidding? This guy has nothing to do with you, Nyarlathotep said incredulously. For mother goddesses of creation like them, the life they nurture usually carries their own breath. But there are some special ones. For example, for a certain race, humans, after tens of thousands of years of reproduction and countless transitions, will lose their breath. Nyarlathotep is not unaware of this, mainly because such powerful beings are generally first-generation descendants, and Xia Yu's essence has nothing to do with Tiamat. So, he was surprised. Don't struggle. You have already lost, and you lost because of your arrogance. Xia Yu sat on Tiamat's shoulders, and one by one, the wings of light entered the anti-Genesis, penetrated Nyarlathotep's body, and constantly analyzed his existence. Time is also meaningless in this space. Xia Yu can completely analyze Nyarlathotep thoroughly before talking about it. Hey, there's no need to lock me up. What you want is my knowledge, and you don't want me to mess around in your territory. No problem, let me go, and I'll give you all my knowledge. Seeing that he couldn't convince Tiamat, Nyarlathotep began to persuade Xia Yu again. But he didn't hold out much hope. After all, he was at the mercy of others. Want to make a deal with me again? Sure, unexpectedly. Xia Yu actually agreed to him. But, as a loser, pleasing the winner is also an art. Although you don't quite understand it, I can teach you. Yes. Becoming like this may make me feel happier. A photo condensed in Xia Yu's hand, and he threw it down casually, sliding in the air and falling into the anti-Genesis. Oh, is this the aesthetic you have developed? A bit strange? But it doesn't seem bad. He glanced at it, and his body changed. Silver hair fluttered in the wind, white and delicate skin was intoxicating, a uniform similar to that of the neon high school students wrapped around her delicate body, black knee-high stockings wrapped around her feet. Nyarlathotep looked at his current posture and nodded with satisfaction. Tisk tisk tisk, worthy of being the god of thousand faces, tisk tisk, very good. Nyarlathotep's original posture was more like a mosaic than a living creature. Different people would see different things, while Xia Yu would directly see her essence, chaos, through calculation. And now, I have to say, it is much more pleasing to the eye. Since the shadow of you was made through the human observation method, there is no longer an instinctive mechanical style in the mind, and Xia Yu's thinking has also recovered a lot. He gradually became a bit like the dead otaku he used to be, but he was also a bit similar to Nyarlathotep, that is, he liked to see interesting and beautiful things, preferably both. And the normal XP system of the silver-haired control was naturally loaded into the DNA again. Although he may not have the DNA that ordinary people know. Hey. Are you becoming realistic? Nyarlathotep didn't quite understand what Xia Yu meant. Lift up your skirt, let me. The loving mother instinctively stopped Xia Yu in her most familiar way of expression. What about now? Can we make a deal? The situation is different. Xia Yu is now in an absolute advantage. Although Xia Yu can't kill Nyarlathotep, it's probably no problem to keep wasting time and imprison her for eternity. This is actually nothing to these beings, after all, time is meaningless to them. However, Nyarlathotep has a playful personality. For her, being in prison forever is really tormenting. Therefore, she bowed to Xia Yu. Anyway, compared to being in prison forever, she actually has nothing to lose. Of course. You have expressed your sincerity, so I will set the conditions. First, I want all your knowledge, and even your understanding of your own nature. Nyarlathotep nodded helplessly. This was actually Xia Yu's. After all, a local tyrant could not ask for property from a robber who had completely occupied his house. From now on, you belong to me and become my subordinate, including but not limited to commanding you to do things and making you work like a cow or a horse. It is very harsh, but it is for ordinary people. For beings of the level of Nyarlathotep and Xia Yu, it is nothing. Because, if they don't die, they will not be truly defeated. If they really don't want to, no one can force them, and they are still willing to lose this integrity. Doesn't it prove that this matter doesn't matter? This is actually just a verbal agreement, meaningless. Okay, but you have to make me feel interesting. Interesting is the spiritual meaning of Nyarlathotep's life. She started from the initial chaos, that is, muddle-headed, until a creature sacrificed to her, making her feel this emotion for the first time. She has always been pursuing this thing. As long as it makes her feel interesting, she is even willing to be used as a gun by a mortal. Of course, that degree basically does not exist. Okay. After I finish analyzing it, I will let the Mother Goddess release you. Now, open your legs, cough cough, let go of the obstruction and let me visit. Don't worry, it won't hurt pain? What is that? Nyarlathotep asked curiously. Like this, Xia Yu's light wings behind him were directly pulled out, like a lightning, and hit Nyarlathotep's back fiercely. The clothes were directly damaged, and a red mark appeared on the snow-white skin. An unprecedented strange feeling came to her heart, and Nyarlathotep knew that this feeling was called pain. This was a feeling she had never experienced before. It was also because Xia Yu gave her the concept of human beings, making her body somewhat similar to that of humans, that she felt it. Gods, don't feel pain. Only life can feel pain. Can you do it again? Nyarlathotep looked at Xia Yu, who was perched high on Tiamat's shoulder, with a flushed face. He was like a puppy waiting for his master to feed him at mealtime. The handsome man tilted his head. Please recommend. Please add to favorites. Please vote for the monthly ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 The Huge Monster in Fuayuki, the Foggy City. A sports car rushed from the alley to the road along the river, and finally made a sharp turn beautifully and stopped. Saber jumped out of the car without waiting for the door to open completely and ran to the river bank. The thick fog that was enough to make ordinary people lose their vision could not affect the servants and the magicians who had enhanced their vision with magic. Soon, Saber saw the indescribable Meat Mountain standing in the center of the Weiyun River, and Giles in the Meat Mountain also saw Saber. Oh. Holy girl. You came at the right time. It is my supreme honor to see you again. The voice coming from the Meat Mountain really made Saber look confused. Then Irisville got out of the sports car, hiding behind Saber, who was nervously alert and quietly looking at the Meat Mountain. Saber, do you know him? No, I have no impression. As if he had heard the whispers between Saber and Irisville, Giles' voice suddenly became irritable in the Meat Mountain. Oh, how is this possible? Have you forgotten me? Didn't we just... Giles' words suddenly stopped, and he seemed to see the difference in the girl in front of him. Saber's expression turned cold. It is even more irrelevant words. There is nothing to forget or not to forget. This is the first time we meet. You must have recognized the wrong person. Oh, woo woo woo. It's me. I am your most loyal servant, Giles de Rice. I have always prayed for your resurrection, sincerely hoped that such a miracle would happen, and have been waiting for the day when I can meet you again. It is for this purpose that I came here, Jean. The voices in the meat mountain became more confused, and Giles yelled and screamed, already like a madman. How sad and lamentable this is. Not only has she lost her memory, but she has also lost her mind. How abominable. How abominable. Oh, God, why are you so cruel to my beautiful girl? Have you had enough? It's too ugly, Saber scolded loudly. She felt a disgusting feeling that was completely different from fear, as if she was stared at by something disgusting, and her hair stood on end. Ah! The third sound was indescribable. An indescribable disgusting monster fell from the sky and poked out from the sea. It was not a creature from the current earth. It seemed to be a monster that lived in the deep sea of the age of gods. At this moment, demons were dancing wildly. Woo la 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 la! Iskander was driving a thunder-stepping ox cart from afar at this moment. His chariot suddenly fell on the sea, harvesting the demons like a farmer harvesting wheat. The filthy blood was turned into grey mist by thunder, and the chariot of thunder continued to crush from the sea. Tentacles continued to spread around along with the blood, but demons floated up on the sea where the chariot left. The demons with tentacles continued to grow new tentacles in the places where they were cut off. New, identical demons were born from the destroyed wreckage of the demons. What's more troublesome is that the filthy blood sea that continued to spread outwards is still constantly emitting new reinforcements. Buzz Roman made a pistol gesture with his hand and fired at the huge figure that was hiding in the mist in the distance. A magic cannon like a locomotive was fired directly, and the hot magic power instantly pierced the body of the huge monster, and a large amount of tentacles and blood fell like rain. However, in just a moment, the broken flesh and blood regenerated new flesh and blood. Ugh, it's really unbearable. Roman looked at the sea where the demons were dancing wildly, feeling both physically and psychologically uncomfortable. Hey, Conqueror King. Let's go ashore first. It seems that if we don't solve that thing first, these monsters will probably never be plowed away. Okay. King Solomon, Iskander also discovered this problem, so he drove the chariot towards the land. At this moment, the filthy piece of meat gradually expanded and took shape. No, this is the real body of the monster from another world. All the many familiars that Giles has manipulated so far are just fragments of this object. The dawn was covered by thick fog. At this moment, Fuyuki has turned into Foggy City. With a dark black fog as the background, the alien shadow stood tall. Its terrifying and powerful appearance made everyone hold their breath. Even the whales or giant squids that dominate the deep sea do not have such a huge body. This aquatic giant is the follower of the god who dominates the ocean domain of the alien world. It is a veritable sea monster. Woo! The indescribable wailing sound resounded throughout Fuyuki. The intricate sound lines and impact made countless mortals fall asleep directly. Hey, hey. What is that? It's too interesting. Lannis's eyes were burning like a raging fire, and the intense pain seemed to be twitching the entire brain along the neural circuit of the eyes. Pain and pleasure, two expressions that should be opposite, appeared on Lannis's face. And that huge monster can undoubtedly become a child's childhood nightmare, but for Lannis, it will only become a part of her pleasant memory. Giles, Jean was holding Lannis, jumping on the rooftops, and quickly approaching the seaside. Ailey. They seemed to be all servants. Saber looked at the chariot that was speeding towards her. The chariot was quite crowded. Kingo had chains around himself for 3 feet, Iskander was sturdy, and Roman was squeezed together with Waver. Maybe they are going to attack Aster Giles together. Iris Veal looked at the huge monster that was looming in the thick fog in the distance. With her eyesight, she could even see the densely packed eyeballs on the tentacles. It was chilling. Iris Veal instinctively shrank her body and made a very disgusted expression. This thing really made her extremely uncomfortable both psychologically and physically. Not to mention her, even Saber, who had experienced many battles and seen big scenes, couldn't help but show a disgusted expression. Such art is really not suitable for the aesthetics of today's Earthlings. Chapter 90 Strength Gap. Iskander's chariot drifted by inertia and stopped in front of Saber and Iris Veal. The violent hurricane blew the ends of their hair. Hey, you're Saber. So far, Iskander has seen Berserker, Lancer, Archer, Caster, Assassin, and even 2 casters. Ryder is himself, so the blonde girl in front of him is naturally Saber. Of course, he was told that this guy is the second Ryder, and he had no choice but to believe it. After all, there were already 2 casters. Ellie, yes, Saber. After a brief exchange of glances between Saber and Iris Veal, Saber's face straightened, and she seemed to be holding an unknown object in her hand. She stuck it into the ground, placed both hands on it, and loudly declared, "I am the King of Britain, the Night King, Altria Pendragon. I came to this holy grail war as Saber's profession, oh heroic. As expected of the world-famous Night King, but, the famous British Night King is actually a little girl." Iskander praised Saber's self-introduction, and at the same time stepped on a landmine with a very rude mouth. Saber frowned, her expression changed, and her impression of Iskander dropped all of a sudden. She said a little annoyed, "Do you want to eat the sword of the little girl you mentioned?" Seeing Saber's unhappy posture, Ryder raised his hand calmly. "Don't get excited. Let's temporarily stop fighting tonight. If we leave that big guy there, we won't be able to have a good fight." Iskander pointed at the huge monster behind him. Well, I will fight back with my sword later about your contempt, but at this moment, we really have to fight together, Saber said very seriously and uprightly. Ho ha, then let's introduce ourselves. I am the King of Conquerors Iskander, who descended as a rider. After Iskander introduced himself to Saber, he looked at Roman and Kingu beside him. Roman jumped off the chariot in a very careful manner, walked to the side and introduced himself to Saber. "My name is Roman, I am a doctor, and I descended as a caster. Well, although I don't want to mention it, in history, I still have the identity of the King of Israel, King Solomon. I know a little about magic and can help you, King Solomon," Iris Veal exclaimed. The popularity of this name, especially in the magic circle, is too exaggerated. "I am Kingu, the son of the mother goddess of creation and pure humans. Don't get me wrong, I am not your helper, especially you. Roman, if you lied to me before, I will beat you into a dice." Kingu jumped off the chariot with a look of disdain on his face. "Oh, your father asked me to deal with it, really?" Kingu's eyes focused on Roman for a moment, and his eyes were like a hawk that pierced through the soul. "Really, I am enough to deal with this kind of thing. No cooperation is required." Kingu's eyes flashed with brilliance, and with her snapping of her fingers, a book condensed around her. "Looks like we can take a break." Roman, who found the worker, smiled comfortably, and summoned several stone benches with a snap of his fingers. He sat on one of them directly, crossed his legs and became a spectator. Saber frowned. She didn't like Kingu's arrogance, but because she didn't know the situation very well, she didn't know what to say for a while. "It's okay, Night King. That guy is very arrogant, but his strength is completely worthy of his words. With her here, we shouldn't have any problems." Iskander also acted as if he was watching a good show. "It seems that I have caught up with a good show." Assassin suddenly appeared and then sat on the stone bench naturally. "Yo, isn't this Roman? You too?" "Yeah." Then, looking at the appearance of this group of Dio people, Saber did not feel their nervousness at all, as if the enemy in front of them was just a dish. Could it be that this Kingu is really so powerful? Saber quietly glanced at Kingu. The magic book was placed in front of him, and Kingu made a pistol gesture with his right hand, and then fired. The purple electric light illuminated the darkness in an instant, and everyone's eyes were covered by purple. The purple lightning released a terrifying high temperature wantonly, a large amount of seawater was evaporated, and countless monsters were turned into ashes, accompanied by a strike of lightning beams. A quarter of the huge monster's body was taken away, revealing even more disgusting flesh and blood, and the eyeballs entangled and surging in the flesh and blood. Iris Veal and the others were even more disgusted, as this really did not fit their aesthetic taste. "Ah. Well. That should be it." Recalling the force that Kingu had shown before, and looking at the magic she was performing at the moment, Iskander said with some lack of confidence. "Well. Kingu, hurry up, just kill her in seconds, I still have to go back to watch the anime, cough cough. I'll take you to see your father right away, dot. Die? Bug." Kingu stamped his feet, and ripples appeared on the ground. Gunlocks poked out from the ground and then erupted, and countless weapons fell like meteors. Flesh and blood were shattered, and monsters were pierced. Although the monsters' recovery speed is extremely amazing, they are still shrinking and collapsing under the seemingly endless bombardment. Great, great. This is really interesting, ha ha ha, cough cough. Giles, maybe, this is the ending you deserve. On the road by the sea, Jean d'Arc held Lannis and looked at the chariot in the distance. The outcome of the battle was no longer in suspense. Maybe there was no suspense from the beginning. She didn't move forward, but just watched here, watching her former comrade in arms leave again. Now she would only do one thing for Giles, which was, may you be redeemed, that is to pray. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 91 The Art of Death The encounter between the monarch and the killer? Keep going. Destroy them. Kill them. At this moment, Ryunosuke Uryu was like a fanatic believer of his faith, with madness and persistence in his eyes, shouting and making exaggerated movements. In the eyes of ordinary people around him, his behaviors that could not be understood by common sense were like patients in a mental hospital, leaving a fairly empty area in order not to be associated with Ryunosuke Uryu. This is the toy box of God. Ahohohahoha. I can finally say goodbye to boredom, and I don't need to spend time killing people anymore. Even if I leave it alone, people will continue to die, be crushed, torn, crushed, and eaten. Die, 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 and die continuously. I can keep seeing intestines I have never seen, every day, all over the world, everywhere. There is no end, it will never end. The blood exploded, and the huge monster seemed to be at a disadvantage, but Ryunosuke Uryu still cheered wildly. Whether it was the raging of the huge monster or the continuous destruction by the opponent, the beauty made him intoxicated. Immersed in enthusiasm and excitement, he did not realize that compared to the feast of flesh and blood he was looking forward to, his own death would come first. A man in a windbreaker came to his side quietly, took out a long black pistol from his waist, and put it on Ryunosuke Tsuji's waist. A bang with a gunshot, a bullet was fired from the silencer, leaving a trace in the air and piercing Ryunosuke Tsuji's abdomen. Ryunosuke Tsuji subconsciously looked down at his abdomen. Squeak. Just like when the faucet is turned to the maximum, people want to block it, blood spurted out of Ryunosuke Tsuji's abdomen. This is a magic dress, and the caliber of its bullet is comparable to that of a sniper rifle. This kind of bullet penetrates the abdomen, and there is basically no hope, unless the frog doctor can be caught from another world. And now, what Ryunosuke Tsuji sees is the beauty that truly belongs to him. Ah! It's so beautiful. Looking at his white shirt that had been stained with blood, Ryunosuke Uryu seemed to see something very beautiful, with beauty and desire in his eyes. Is that so? No wonder I didn't notice it before. No wonder they say the easiest thing to ignore is the one around you, not other people. Ryunosuke Uryu held his forehead with his blood-stained hand, and the whole person seemed to be talking to himself. What I'm looking for is hidden in my stomach. Humph. I finally found it. I've been looking for it. What? If it's in my body, wouldn't it be better to tell me earlier? Carefully experiencing the pain, coldness, and vagueness, and feeling the passing of life in his body. Ryunosuke Uryu made a final summary of his life of constant pursuit. Although this young life is about to come to an end and the process is short, in the end, he still found what he had been looking for all along, the understanding of death. In fact, Ryunosuke Uryu has always been afraid of this thing, that is, if he has not found what he is looking for before his life is over, what will he be like? This is something Ryunosuke Uryu deliberately avoided, but now, he finally got the answer he has been summing up for the word death. Not a magician, a doubtful voice came from behind, and then another gun was taken out, and the flames lit up. A bullet went through his head. Castor's master has been dealt with. It seems that Castor can't hold on for much longer. One group is out. The man who killed Ryunosuke Uryu was Kiritsugu Imaya. At this special time, he discovered this strange guy, which led to the death of Ryunosuke Uryu. However, the mantis stalks the cicada, and the oriole is behind. A man with short golden hair, wearing a handsome dark blue robe, and a natural and confident face came out, and kept clapping. I don't know if he is praising Kiritsugu Imaya's beautiful actions or praising his own fishing plan. You are. Kenneth L. Meloy Archipelago. Imaya Kiritsugu knew the names of every contestant, and the man in front of him was the enemy with the highest master quality on paper, and could be called one of the 12 monarchs of the Clock Tower and the strongest monarch of El Meloy in the current faction by the official magic organization. Hello, despicable magician, why don't you run away when you see me, the monarch of El Meloy? Kenneth showed a proud expression. And Imaya Kiritsugu did not hesitate at all, and immediately aimed the small submachine gun he took out from his waist and fired at Kenneth. Da 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 da, Flames kept flashing from the muzzle, and bullets were fired at a short distance. Clang clang clang, a golden figure appeared in front of Kenneth, waving the spear in his hand quickly, as if it was out of the laws of physics, and almost at the same time, all the bullets were shot down. Lancer? Berserker, seeing that the other party had summoned a servant, Emiya Kiritsugu did not hesitate at all and immediately called his own servant. Swoosh in the distance, a beam of light flew towards Kenneth at a speed exceeding 5 times the speed of sound. Lancer fixed his eyes and found that it was an arrow. Then he waved his spear and deflected the arrow with one shot. The arrow fell into the sea beside him, like a depth charge exploding, raising several feet of waves. Lancer. Go deal with that servant, leave this guy to me. Kenneth showed a proud smile, took out a small test tube from his arms, and tilted it down. Fervor, me sanguis, boiling, my blood. As soon as the spell of the magic was chanted, the solution that seemed to be only 100 milliliters began to expand wildly once it left the test tube, and finally expanded into a silver sphere with a diameter of nearly 1 meter. This is Kenneth's trump card and the result he is proud of. With this, Kenneth, who is not good at fighting, can even fight with the servants. The name of the dress is Moon Spirit Marrow Fluid, which is a unique battle dress created by Kenneth combining his Feng Shui dual attributes and his best fluid operation magic. The essence of the silver sphere is specially treated mercury, and Kenneth can manipulate a mercury at will. Mercury without a fixed shape can be molded into any shape. Please be careful. Lancer left only one piece of advice before jumping up, his body instantly exceeding 3 times the speed of sound, heading towards the enemy in the distance. Here, only Emiya Kiritsugu and Kenneth were left. Chapter 92, Link of Bond. Ryunosuke, my master, you actually left me behind to go first. But don't worry, Jill Derice, will definitely fulfill my promise to you. Jill, with tears in his eyes, held his treasure in both hands. His high-pitched and sad voice penetrated through the layers of flesh and shook the atmosphere with a magic power. He had already felt the contract was broken, which represented the death of his friend Ryunosuke Ryu. He was sad from the bottom of his heart, and even the crazy consciousness that originally controlled him was temporarily broken, but he eventually fell into madness. Ryunosuke, look, this is the best cool I give you. Cool is transliterated as cool, which is Ryunosuke's catchphrase. Whenever he is excited, he will shout like this. Since he summoned Jill, he has been praising Jill with this word every day. Over time, Jill was also infected by him and became cooler and cooler. The magic wind formed by the indescribable scream actually withstood the wisdom of the people that Kingu kept bombarding at this moment. Come on. Devour my magic power, erode my soul. I will sacrifice myself and offer the coolest ceremony from my friend. The Lorne City textbook, in Giles' hand actually floated up out of thin air, and it turned page by page, and streams of blood-red filthy air overflowed from it. The filthy magic power permeated Giles' body, and his body was quickly decomposed, and the soul that descended here was also used as a trigger. Giles saw that it was an endless stream of water, and in the endless deep sea, there was an ancient city. To the south of it, there was an abyss, and he was imprisoned there. He had a huge single eye on his forehead, surrounded by tentacles, and his hands and feet had web feet, looking like a huge frog. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, and an eye filled with infinite filth looked over, and Giles' soul instantly turned into a monster and became its follower. The giant monster's body healed at an extremely fast speed, and a second abnormality occurred. A stream of blood-red air was operating on it. Its body began to shrink slightly, but it became more solid, and from the original indescribable alien shape, it gradually became somewhat similar to an amphibian frog. Hey, what is that? It's not the sea monster from before. Iskander's face was full of solemnity. Unlike before, he felt an extremely ominous and twisted power on the behemoth now. Even as a servant, he could feel his spirit being slowly eroded by it, even if it was very slow, so slow that it would take at least several years, but it was definitely different from before. It was the difference from 0 to 1. You actually chose this. Roman jumped up from the stool. He could no longer sit still. He never thought that Giles would go to this extent, completely abandoning the glory of a hero, and even abandoning the dignity of a hero, willingly putting himself on the altar as a sacrifice. The ancient evil god peeked over from the dream world of a greater existence. It was an ancient demon god that could rival the original body of the 72 demon gods that Roman used during the reign of King Solomon. If Roman was still King Solomon, or could exert his full strength, then this thing would be vulnerable. However, what descended here was just a conceptual incarnation, and its power was simply 1 in 1,000. Facing the descent of an evil god would still be a bit difficult. The reason that prompted Giles to make such a choice was because of the death of Ryunosuke Uzumaki and the oppression of many servants, or god's lackeys in his eyes. Ryunosuke Uzumaki is the most important person to him at present. No one else, even Jean, at present, is slightly inferior to Ryunosuke Uzumaki. They are the most sincere friends, pilgrims with common hobbies and goals. Ryunosuke Uzumaki can be said to be the guide of his new faith, just like Jean at the beginning. Twice, Jean was sent to the stake on false charges. Ryunosuke Usuji was assassinated. The many gods' lackeys kept oppressing him, and this fallen hero completely dedicated himself to the devil. Ryunosuke. Cool. In the last moment of the concept soul extinguishing, Giles loudly asked his deceased friend, waiting for his response. Cool. I don't know if it was the whisper of the evil god, or if it was a mental disorder, or if it was really Ryunosuke's response, but Giles smiled. Giles, Jean looked at the huge monster that had changed drastically in silence. The evil and twisted whispers kept echoing in her ears. It sounded like Giles' call, and it sounded like the insults people had said to her before she was burned. She knew. Giles was redeemed. However, this kind of redemption was different from the conventional sense. That thing is no longer a follower of the evil god. Just now, Giles sacrificed himself to the evil god. The will of an evil god has descended, but fortunately it is not the main god of the water camp, but its subordinate god. We are not invincible, but we still need time to find a way. Roman's wisdom of Solomon told him the information of the monster in front of him, and also guided him on how to destroy it. Solving the monster in front of him will not solve the problem. As long as the evil god behind him is still using the channel created by Giles' sacrifice to enter, no matter how many times, the monster will eventually form. So, what Roman needs to do is close the channel caused by Giles' sacrifice. This requires him to make some preparations. Roar! The monster let out a deafening roar, and the sound waves shook the river surface. Waves of foam were lifted onto the river bank, and the materialized sound waves set off a hurricane that blew past Roman and others. It has alienated limbs, like limbs with frog web feet, and strode towards the shore. A huge eye opened on its forehead, and it looked at Roman and others on the shore. I am Isajida, the god beyond water, the third son of the Old One Cthulhu. Ants. Turn into ashes. The name of this evil god is known to everyone. Isajida's red eyes are pregnant with terrifying magic light. Its eyes instantly light up with filthy blood color. Everyone, Weber, Iskander, Iris Veal, Saber, can't look directly at it. If they force themselves to look directly at it, they will be eroded by its madness. The unimaginable magic light column pressed towards Roman and others. Even Weber could feel the horror of that magic power. It was definitely the kind that would kill anyone who was hit head-on, but because it was too sudden, there was no time to react. At this moment, Assassin had drawn his greatsword, and Roman had prepared a barrier in his hand. However, it seemed that someone was going to show off first. Chapter 93 Cruel Epic. Don't worry, please gather under my flag. At this moment Joan of Arc came to the front, holding up the flag in her hand. The golden light shone on the altar of darkness and madness, and the flag shone with sacred light. My lord is here. The filthy magic light burned the river, the container, the earth, everything. And in such a purgatory world, there is still a pure land, that is the land behind Joan of Arc's body. The flag kept fluttering, and rays of golden light emerged from it. The hazy golden light seemed to have turned into an unbreakable great wall at this moment, guarding Joan of Arc and everything behind her. Lord, please protect me. Joan of Arc prayed. Facing the blood that seemed to engulf the world, there was no trace of fear on her face. She just prayed devoutly and raised the flag of holy light. My lord is here. This is the holy flag that Joan of Arc waved during her lifetime. It is the embodiment of the legend of waving the flag on the battlefield and winning almost without any damage to the end. Through the blessing of the angels, it protects the 10 distance units centered on this flag. It can directly convert the magic resistance of the out of specification, X, into physical defense to block the opponent's attack. Its level is the highest level A. Although there is a certain gap with the out of specification evil god clone, its crazy up to X magic resistance converted into defense including physical attack is almost unbreakable. However, while the holy flag is raised, Joan of Arc will not be able to carry out any attacks. and the flag itself will continue to accumulate the opponent's attack damage, so if it is abused, it will no longer be able to be used. Well, next, it's time for us to take action. Assassin, King, please give me some time, Roman said casually. Understood. Assassin nodded, picked up the greatsword in his hand and walked forward. To deal with this kind of thing, you don't need help, I alone is enough, and Jingu was still as disdainful. It was just a clone of a subordinate god, which was completely vulnerable to her. Even in its current posture, she could still pin him to the ground. However, Assassin would not pay attention to her, but raised the two-handed greatsword in his hand and flashed, appearing in the air from the river bank, right in front of Isogda. Kill. A blue fire ignited on the blade, and Assassin slash lightly touched Isogda's head. The huge body collapsed and turned into scattered magic power. The existence in the other world connected to it was also hurt by this sword and let out a miserable cry. Isogda struggled frantically with the chains. A lot of black color appeared on his body. The concept called death was traced from the clone. The chains made bursts of noises, and the roar spread far and wide in the dream of the ocean. Hey, hey. Just delay the time, why did you kill him in 1 second? Roman said helplessly, covering his face. When mankind encountered a crisis, Assassin obtained the blessing of human reason, and the spiritual base that descended obtained a temporary increase, which can be called a crown. Don't blame Assassin for not being careful, blame Isogda for being too rubbish. Tisk. Jingu was very uncomfortable with Assassin's stealing of heads, but Assassin was much stronger than her at the moment. Although he was impulsive, he was not a fool. Zhen was embarrassed. She thought her defense was very important, but suddenly found that as a tank, she was self-righteously defending her teammates from attacks launched by level 50 enemies, but her teammates were level 80. However, Roman was not happy that Isogda was killed in seconds. His father had said, that, before the passage was closed, even if Isogda was killed, it would be useless, and it would only attract the attention of more powerful beings. For example, Isogda's screams resounded through the ocean, but in a brief moment, he made a whimpering sound like a duck with its neck strangled. A huge eye suddenly appeared in the air, and after the eye rotated, its gaze fixed on Assassin. Tisk, really, troublesome. Roman smacked his lips and said with a headache. The Lord of the Dream, which was composed of the ocean, woke up amid the wailing of his son. However, this great being did not care about the so-called offspring. He was just angry that his offspring affected his sleep and saw an interesting world. Just like his offspring, his name was described in human words, that is Cthulhu. This is a real ancient evil god, much more powerful than his so-called offspring. It is also a terrifying demon god that can be compared with the supreme four pillars among the demon gods that Solomon controlled during his lifetime. If he wants to force his way through this passage, then even if Roman recovers the strength of King Solomon, Jingu recovers his full strength, and Assassin, who still holds the crown's spiritual base at this moment, cannot kill him. The earth will definitely be finished. Suddenly, there was a distortion in the air, and a right hand that seemed to be made of thunder appeared in the air. Its father, Jingu, looked at the hand and was sure of Roman's words in his heart. That eye was fixed on the right hand, and a look of Xia Yu's interested appeared in the eye. Although it was just an eye, it showed emotions like a human face. It's done so soon? You are worthy of it. It's really fast. Roman glanced at the right hand and chuckled. He could slack off again. Boom! A thunder flashed from the right hand and exploded beside Roman, scaring Roman. It was really a jump. He knew what thunder and lightning were, and he didn't want to be touched by it. Hey, what is this again? The combination of Iskander, Weber and Saber, Irisville are probably the most confused right now. They have no idea what has happened at all, from the beginning when the sea demon was beaten by Kingu, to the later instant killing of the demon god, to this moment, this eye that makes people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts, and the confrontation with the right hand that cannot be expressed in words. How to say it? Very confused. It feels like I am instantly out of touch with the times. The right hand opened and gently wiped forward, like a blackboard eraser, wiping away the eye. Then the hand disappeared, the sun rose normally, and time seemed to have returned to the beginning, as if nothing had happened. But the red-stained sea told them that it was not an illusion. Okay, let's break up. Roman said naturally, without any shame for just playing a supporting role. But having said that, in this battle, only Jingu and Assassin contributed a little, and the others were just so-so. how to describe the thoughts of Iskander, Jean and others. It's probably that they laid the groundwork for a lot of grand plots, but found out that they were not the protagonists, and these so-called epic plots were just a trivial matter for the real protagonists. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 94: The Monarch and the Killer. The wind blew, and the wailing of monsters in the distance became the background music. Imaya Kiritsugu and Kenneth were like two cowboys in a western movie, staring at each other, waiting to kill the enemy with thunder. Imaya Kiritsugu scanned Kenneth with his eagle-like eyes, especially the liquid mercury bowl next to him that looked like a slime. Kenneth smiled confidently and determinedly, like a victorious tiger looking down on his prey. Suddenly, Imaya Kiritsugu took the lead, raised the muzzle of the submachine gun in his hand, and fired at Kenneth. Automata defensio, automatic defense, ding 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 ding. Bullets were fired at Kenneth one after another, and the moon spirit marrow fluid activated the automatic defense. A mercury wall that seemed transparent and fragile but was like an immovable fortress blocked Kenneth. Scalp. Kenneth immediately launched a counterattack against Kiritsugu Imaya. The moon spirit marrow liquid extended a whip-shaped tentacle from each of the four corners and slashed at Kiritsugu Imaya. Inherent speed defense. Double speed. Kiritsugu Imaya suddenly doubled his speed, dodged the slash of the moon spirit marrow liquid, and fled to the side of the Fuayuki city. In an open area, it was a big problem for Kiritsugu Imaya to defeat Kenneth. The moon spirit marrow liquid shattered the ground where Kiritsugu Imaya was standing, and a puff of smoke rose. Kenneth dropped his arms in surprise, and recalled Kiritsugu Imaya's actions just now and immediately understood the principle. You used your body as an inherent barrier to manipulate time to speed up? It seems that you have some experience in magic. After all, you have been influenced by magic, but you are a despicable villain who relies on cheap tricks. Death will make you recognize yourself. Kenneth, who has excellent knowledge, hugged his chest again with disdain. The dirty tricks he mentioned were modern weapons such as guns used by Imaya Kiritsugu. Here, magicians are very retro and xenophobic, and most of them have always looked down on so-called technology. Imaya Kiritsugu quickly crossed the road and went into the city, while Kenneth used the moon spirit marrow fluid to hold himself up and chased elegantly. Because there were too many living people in the city, the moon spirit marrow fluid, which relied on heartbeats and heat to find the enemy, could not chase, but the city was relatively empty, and a pair of eyes stared at Imaya Kiritsugu in the sky. At this moment, Imaya Kiritsugu felt the sense of surveillance and the huge pressure that Kenneth behind him kept bringing to him. He couldn't help but think of countermeasures quickly in his heart. That magic suit is very troublesome. It can automatically defend. The firepower of this light submachine gun cannot penetrate it at all. Some kind of detection magic is also locking me tightly, so I can't sneak attack. And Kenai is following behind me and biting me tightly. I can't set a trap. The origin bullet, with his current magic circuit, the damage to him is great, but it is not fatal, and it is even in an acceptable state. Once he is on guard, it can't play a second role. Rational analysis is the biggest weapon that Kiritsugu Imaya has been able to survive until now, and now he's thinking about how to use Kenneth's biggest weakness. Pride maybe. I don't need to fight him at all. Maybe I can kill someone with a boro knife. Kiritsugu Imaya suddenly thought of a very good idea, to use his ally, the magician who made him shudder, Zhaokan Matao. With Kenneth's arrogance, he will definitely confront him without hesitation. At that time, we can see the famous genius of the magic world fighting against a monster of the magic world. However, we also need to provoke this monster. Kiritsugu Imaya suddenly turned in a direction, then took out his submachine gun and started shooting behind him. Kenneth stood on the moon spirit marrow liquid, folded his arms, and faced the bullets flying through him calmly. The moon spirit marrow liquid under his feet extended dozens of tentacles, attacking quickly, shooting down all the bullets that could hit Kenneth. Kuda, you and your weapons are ridiculous to me, Kenneth mocked Kiritsugu Imaya with great arrogance. Kiritsugu Imaya continued to run, and Kenneth's mockery was as ridiculous as a child to him. Kiritsugu Imaya hid in an alley and instantly cast the magic of concealment and disguise on himself. Kenneth suddenly lost the target of Kiritsugu Imaya, but he didn't care, because Kiritsugu Imaya's magic attainments were much worse than his, and he would be discovered again in a short time. At the same time, he continued to activate the enemy-seeking function of the moon spirit marrow liquid. Heat and heartbeats are also difficult to conceal for a magician. Kenneth came to the entrance of the alley. This alley went straight to the opposite side, and there was a trash can in the middle. Kenneth ordered the moon spirit marrow fluid to smash the trash can, and kept walking forward. Suddenly, a call came from behind. Imaikaritsugu jumped down from above, picked up the submachine gun and opened fire. Kenneth was shocked. He was not worried whether these bullets would kill him. After all, the moon spirit marrow fluid had a self-defense function. He just couldn't think of how Imaikaritsugu escaped the exploration of the moon spirit marrow fluid for a while. If he escaped for a while, it would be understandable, but this has been on all the time, huh? Kenneth saw Imaikaritsugu's appearance through the transparent mercury wall. He was panting, his face was pale. There was a feeling of lack of blood and oxygen. I see, is it inherent speed control? Relying on willpower to survive. Interesting, Imaikaritsugu. For the first time, Kenneth looked at the enemy in front of him, and no longer regarded him as a despicable villain who used despicable skills. Instead, he was regarded as a very timid and despicable person who used despicable techniques. Suddenly, the man in front of him threw away the submachine gun in his hand, took out a pistol and pointed it at Kenneth. He smiled slightly in a place where Kenneth could not notice. Bang! The powerful impact caused the bullet to penetrate the mercury wall with a point. Kenneth subconsciously dodged and the bullet penetrated his left shoulder. Ah! Kenneth screamed, and he subconsciously covered his left shoulder. The blood stained his white gloves red. He looked at Imaikaritsugu, who still kept the gun raised. Scalp. In order to prevent him from finishing off and causing greater damage to himself, Kenneth immediately launched an attack on him. The moon spirit marrow fluid that was originally scattered instantly condensed and turned into a whip towards Imaikaritsugu. Imaikaritsugu dodged, picked up his submachine gun and suppressed fire again. The mercury wall resisted the bullets one by one, and Imaikaritsugu turned around and disappeared around the corner. He actually broke through the defense of the moon spirit marrow fluid? No, I was just confused by his childish attack and became careless. We must enter the defense state more quickly and efficiently. In this way, that guy will also know how powerful this thing is. The same attack will not succeed a second time. Next time he will definitely invest all his magic power in defense. However, this is exactly what I want. However, although I can use this, but let my allies try it with him. Imaikaritsugu was only 100 meters away from the Matao mansion. He once again felt the sense of surveillance around him, but this time, he smiled. Chapter 95, Reunion of Old Enemies. Clang clang clang. Lancer's figure flashed quickly between the floors, and the arrows almost brushed past him. If Lancer hadn't taken into account that these arrows, like cannonballs, would hurt innocent people, he would have used his spear to continuously shoot away the arrows, making them fall accurately into the sea, and these arrows would not have touched Lancer. And just like that, after a few flashes, Lancer still crossed more than 10 miles and came to the enemy. When he saw this enemy in front of him, Lancer was so surprised that he couldn't speak. Karna, he was wearing a white robe with beautiful purple patterns embroidered on it, and the patterns represented thunder and royal power. Compared with Karna's snow-white skin, the person in front of him had black skin, but he didn't look like an African, but a yellow man with a tilted and sunburned face. He held a gorgeous and majestic bow. The bow body was even 2/3 of Karna's height, and the bowstring was a long string like a raging fire, highlighting the extraordinariness of the person in front of him. But the temperament of this man completely ruined his nearly perfect image. Frenzy, crazy, he was like a ferocious beast, staring at Karna, and saying his name. Karna, you are? Arjuna. What? Clang. Before Karna finished speaking, Arjuna rushed up like a beast. His body was entangled with lightning, and the bow in his hand was directly used as a stick. Karna hurriedly fought back, and the golden spear and the brass bow collided violently. Sparks flew everywhere. Arjuna? How is it possible? The enemy in front of him was Karna's brother and enemy. He and Karna had both appeared in the famous Indian mythological epic Mahabharata. And Arjuna was the protagonist of that epic. As for Karna, maybe it could be said that they were the opposite base. Both were noble and powerful warriors, and they had fought many times in the epic. They were both brothers and mortal enemies. They are half-brothers, and including them, there are a total of 6 brothers, all of whom are half-brothers. As for the victim, it was the Pandavas, a king of India at that time. And in that epic, Arjuna was the enemy who gave Karna the final blow. How to say it? In his life experience, Arjuna was the enemy who took away everything from Karna, whether it was maternal love, the armor given by the father god since birth, or even taking his life by despicable means. Arjuna took away everything from Karna. However, it is strange to say that Karna did not have any resentment, but just accepted the destruction naturally. As a warrior, he recognized Arjuna's strength and nobility from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't understand why such a person would degenerate into a berserker who lost his mind. Or, what happened to make this hero, even if he lost his mind, come, and what kind of wish he wanted to realize. Karna, Arjuna roared, and he pressed hard, and the powerful force swept Karna away. Golden lightning surrounded him, and Arjuna drew his longbow towards Karna, who was in a weightless free-fall. The lightnings willingly turned into his arrows, and his eyes suddenly became pure as water at this moment. He breathed gently, as if the bow was breathing with him. The arrows shot out violently, the arrows incarnated by lightning, like the punishment of the gods, piercing through the air and shining in all directions. Karna adjusted his body shape in the air, using the building next to him for leverage, and thrusting the tip of his spear upwards and under his feet. And the place where he leveraged was not hurt at all. Karna was like an arrow shot from a bow, colliding with the arrow of lightning. The tip of the spear penetrated the lightning, and this time Karna did not choose to deflect the arrow, because there was no angle around that would not hurt him. He chose to bear the arrows, and the lightning exploded on his body. The strange armor transferred the damage of the lightning, and Karna was almost unharmed. And Arjuna did not attack again for some reason. Karna jumped to the rooftop next to Arjuna. He looked at his brother over there and pointed the spear in his hand to the distant suburbs. Arjuna did not respond to him with words, but told him with his body. Arjuna's body quickly shuttled across the rooftops, like a thunderbolt. And Karna followed closely, and the speed of the two was not much different. Golden lightning and red flames shuttled across the rooftops, and in a blink of an eye, the two came to the wilderness. Karna pointed his gun at Arjuna with a smile. Although he didn't know why Arjuna fell into madness, Karna knew that he was still the noble warrior. Facing this old enemy, Karna also ignited a desire to fight for the first time in a long time. Karna, Arjuna roared. It was a roar on the battlefield, a declaration of war on Karna. At this moment, the two immediately clashed. The clashing of spears and longbows was incredible, but under the extraordinary martial arts of the two, no matter what it was, it would be the most terrifying weapon. Thunder roared, flames raged, and every collision between the two would cause damage to the earth, and every confrontation would make the wind wail. This was a cruel duel that had disappeared in modern times and could only happen in that distant era when myths had not completely disappeared. Karna, a warrior wearing strange armor and holding a golden spear, and Arjuna, a brave man who was not inferior to Arjuna with a gorgeous longbow, fought each other hard in the sharp edges and splashing sparks. Although it was a clash of cold weapons, the magic of the collision and the powerful airflow that seemed to destroy everything were not inferior to modern hot weapons. The feet crushed the floor, and the air pressure of the bow and spear smashed the trees behind the two. The wind hummed. Facing a space that was completely opposite to the physical laws of the world, the air around them made a neurotic wail. The two figures moved in this 20 square meter space, and the magic spears and holy swords in their hands clashed in the air. The two had already fought in the ancient age of gods, so there was no need to test each other, and there was no need to hold back. They only needed to do their best to kill their opponents. Stronger, faster, and more fierce. The two kept waving their weapons, launching one move after another, and engaged in a fierce offensive and defensive battle. The legendary treasures manipulated with superhuman strength and speed collided with each other, and the speed even exceeded 3 times the speed of sound. By chance, the tiny distance open was the space for Arjuna, the archer, to perform. Arrows condensed by thunder were shot out quickly, and some were instantly shot down by Karna. Thunder exploded on the ground, and pieces of soil and rocks flew. If you have to find something wrong with this battle, it is that there were no spectators. There were no spectators to witness this battle that spanned the age of gods and the modern era. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Unexpected Enemy Encounter. Really, did it happen that archer, the most unrestrained profession, came? What a trouble. Tasuka Tokiyami was walking on the street. He glanced at a huge monster on the seashore in the distance that was much taller than the building. He wanted to go there. After all, the Tasuka family was the person in charge of magic in Fuyuki. Logically, if something like this happened, he had to go there to make that monster. However, because that thing was obviously summoned by a servant, and his servant, Kingu, ran away, he did not have enough combat power. He was worried whether he could come back alive. Yo look, isn't this our elegant Tasuka family master? I haven't seen you for a few days, and you are so lame. The sarcastic words came from the alley beside, and a figure wearing a hood and holding a child walked out of the shadows. It's the enemy. Instinctively, Tasuka Tokiyami guessed that the person in front of him should be the master who participated in the Holy Grail War, the enemy. Because there were very few people in the city who knew him, and the only one who could remain awake under such a magical impact was at least a magician. The magician who was in Fuyuki at this time was most likely the master, that is, his enemy. Do you want to kill me now? The disagreement between Tasuka Tokiyami and his servant would be hard to miss if he was an enemy who had participated in the previous battle. After all, Kingu scolded him unceremoniously at the end, and now, the opponent seemed to have seized the opportunity when Tasuka Tokiyami's servant was not around and attacked him. Use the command seal to command? The power of the command seal was meaningless. No matter how Tasuka Tokiyami called, there was no response. Look! This stray dog's posture is exactly the same as mine before, the man sneered and mocked, and then the black wind of the curse blew, and the dark night appeared beside him. He handed the child to the knight, then took off his hood, and a face that Tasuka Tokiyami was extremely familiar with and didn't want to face appeared in front of him. Matao Korea? You are not. Tasuka Tokiyami's expression changed from worry to shock, and then his face became stern again, and his expression became a little formulaic. Ah! I'm so touched. I didn't expect that the head of the Tasuka family, who is so high up and a winner, would actually remember me, a loser. Matao Korea's words were like a double-headed thorn. Even while mocking Tasuka Tokiyami, he was also mocking himself. You're different. Matao Korea. Tasuka Tokiyami looked at Matao Korea with a look that emphasized calmness and said, I didn't expect that you, who once gave up the way of magic, would appear here. Why? Do you want to use the Holy Grail to fulfill some wish? How? This is none of your business. I only have one question, Tasuka Tokiyami. Why did you entrust Sakura to Zaoken? Matao Korea couldn't understand, and it was impossible for him to understand. He didn't believe that Tasuka Tokiyami didn't know the true face of Matao Zaoken. In his eyes, magicians were all the same, but he couldn't understand why a father would push his child into purgatory. He couldn't figure it out. Hearing Matao Korea calling his name again, even if this call contained anger, Tasuka Tokiyami's eyes couldn't help but flash a hint of complexity. Answer me. Tasuka Tokiyami, Matao Korea roared, he must hear an answer today. There is nothing to ask. I just do this because I hope my beloved daughter can be happy. What did you say? Matao Korea could not understand what Tasuka Tokiyami said, his mind was simply unable to understand, and seeing that coming to the Matao family was the abyss in purgatory, he could not understand what the relationship was between pushing a child into the abyss and hoping for her happiness. A magician who gives birth to 2 children will be troubled by this, because only one person can inherit the secret, so you have to make a choice and let the other one become an ordinary person, especially my wife is too good as a mother. Both Sakura and Rin have peerless qualifications after they are born. Both sisters need the protection of the magic family. For the future of one of them, the possibility of extinguishing the other one, do you think which parents would expect such a tragedy? Tasuka Tokiyami said calmly, but Matao Korea could not understand this at all. The generation gap between the two of them was too big. Tasuka Tokiyami was an excellent magician, and Matao Korea was still just an ordinary person although he became a magician. In fact, they could not communicate from the beginning. But this is not the main reason. Although it sounds a bit arrogant, the Tasuka family wanted to adopt Sakura, and the Matao family was not the only one who could choose. In fact, among the choices at the beginning, if we only look at the magician Tasuka Tokiyami, the Matao family is the worst one, because except for the so-called covenant, the Matao family has nothing. He adopted Sakura to Matao with personal feelings. As for the so-called reason, how could Tasuka Tokiyami explain it humbly to Matao Korea? You bastard, are you planning to let the sisters fight each other? Matao Korea roared angrily. If the situation is as you said, then my descendants will also be happy. Victory will bring glory, and defeat will also add luster to the family. What is there to hesitate about in this duel? When you tell the first lie to someone who doesn't want to bow his head, it means the emergence of a series of lies. However, strictly speaking, this is not a lie, because Tasuke Tokiyami thinks so. Asshole! Matao Kariya rushed towards Tasuke Tokiyami angrily, his fist clenched, and punched Tasuke Tokiyami in the face. Before that punch came, a cane appeared in Tasuke Tokiyami's hand. It was a magic costume that sealed the gem magic. It only took a thought to release a raging fire. However, Tasuke Tokiyami hesitated before launching it. The fist hit Tasuke Tokiyami's face hard. Tasuke Tokiyami was knocked to the ground, blood flowed from his mouth, and a tooth bounced on the ground several times. The current punching force of Matao Kariya is more than 50 tons, which is theoretically enough to break the city wall. Logically, Tasuke Tokiyami's head should be smashed into pieces, but he was only knocked to the ground and lost a tooth. Medically, it is only considered a minor injury. Kanye, Matao Kariya threw his hand and slapped Tasuke Tokiyami in the face. He gritted his teeth, and said to Tasuke Tokiyami with a look of hatred in his eyes, "You don't deserve to call me that." Once upon a time, Matao Kariya wanted to torture Tasuke Tokiyami piece by piece with his own hands, but now this mortal enemy is right in front of him, and he doesn't know what to do. Tasuke Tokiyami, I will never forgive you, no matter what happened between us or with Sakura. Matao Kariya turned around, leaving a very complicated look, put on his hood, and disappeared into the darkness. Sakura? Do you know something? Kariya, please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 97 Trap. Kenneth, if you have the guts, come in. Emilia Kiritsugu finally arrived at the gate of the Matao mansion. He turned around and looked at Kenneth, who was looking ferocious in the distance, with a mocking smile. Then he flipped over the wall. Kenneth, who was already furious, no longer cared about what was in front of him. Scalp. After Kenneth shouted, part of the mercury ball suddenly turned into a thin and long belt and extended upwards. Then, the mercury belt hit the gate fiercely like a whip. Just when it was about to hit, the mercury whip suddenly compressed into a thin plate with a thickness of only a few microns, becoming a mercury blade as sharp as a razor. As a result, under the sharp blade of mercury, the iron gate was cut in half like tofu, and the gate fell to the inside with a heavy sound. Mercury is a very heavy liquid substance at room temperature. When it moves at high speed under high pressure, it will have a powerful momentum. Moreover, mercury can be transformed into various shapes such as whips, guns, and knives at will, and its sharpness can even surpass that of lasers. In front of the moon spirit marrow fluid, no matter how strong the material is, it makes no difference. Titanium alloy or diamond cannot resist a mercury blade unless they are also attached with special mysteries. After clearing the obstacles in front of him, Kenneth walked forward with a ferocious face. Heck, keep running. Rat. Kenneth swept across the courtyard, revealing a ferocious face. He covered the gunshot wound on his left arm and slowly walked into the courtyard. Emilia Kiritsugu, who had entered the courtyard before, encountered a little problem. Emilia Kiritsugu's face showed a solemn look. He wanted to trick others, but in the end he found that he had tricked himself. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he immediately ran towards the side wall, intending to climb over the wall to leave the courtyard. However, the scenery behind the wall was exactly the same as this side. He was still in the courtyard. Is this a barrier? But what kind of barrier? I've never heard of it before. Emilia Kiritsugu looked around solemnly. He had been thinking that it would be too easy to enter the courtyard, but now he knew that it was a trap. But a thin mercury line appeared in Emilia Kiritsugu's eyes. It was the moon spirit marrow fluid. It was Kenneth who was chasing him. Bang! The mercury immediately turned into attack mode after sensing Emilia Kiritsugu's body temperature, and turned into a spike and stabbed directly at Emilia Kiritsugu's heart. Inherent speed control, triple speed. Emilia Kiritsugu's speed increased immediately, and even a residual image was left behind him. The sharp mercury spear instantly pierced the heart of the phantom, but Emilia Kiritsugu ran away without even looking back. However, he could not escape. One mercury spear after another penetrated the wall and launched a chaotic and noisy attack on him. Emilia Kiritsugu could only continue to maintain the inherent speed control and keep running away. While dodging, Emilia Kiritsugu also found that this was indeed a trap. The house was pierced like a hornet's nest by Kenneth's moon spirit marrow fluid, and no one from the Matau family showed up. Illusion? It shouldn't be, although high-end illusions can be mistaken for real, fake is still fake after all. Imaya Kiritsugu, who is known as the Magician Killer, has a good strategy to deal with illusions. Which is this inherent speed control. If it is an illusion, then in front of Imaya Kiritsugu who has used the inherent speed control, it will be discovered due to the conflict of speed. Of course, it is not impossible that this is an illusion that even Imaya Kiritsugu cannot detect. So, Imaya Kiritsugu dodged another wave of Kenneth's attacks and shouted loudly, "Kenneth, cease fire. We have fallen into the enemy's illusion, despicable magician. This kind of nonsense is fine to fool ordinary magicians. You actually used it on me." The Matau villa in front of him was hit with a large hole that was unobstructed from front to back. Kenneth sneered and approached Imaya Kiritsugu. In his opinion, this was just a lie told by Imaya Kiritsugu out of fear. If it's not an illusion? Then what is the method? Imaya Kiritsugu still trusts Kenneth's judgment. After all, he is the real expert in magic. However, Kenneth can't understand what people say at the moment, and he will definitely not cooperate with Imaya Kiritsugu. So, Imaya Kiritsugu said that for two reasons. One is to use Kenneth's mouth to confirm whether he is in an illusion. The second is to lure Kenneth out. Imaya Kiritsugu raised the large caliber pistol in his hand. This is a magic gift that can only fire one bullet at a time, and the one he loaded this time is the source of his title Magician Killer. Bang! The bullet flew out with a tongue of fire, drew a straight line in the air, and rotated towards Kenneth's heart. This trick again? The same trick will not work for an excellent magician, Kenneth thought, and said in a wild voice, "You don't think that the trick just now is still useful? Lolly rat, the reason why you can hurt me is not because of strategy or trick, but just an unreasonable coincidence. I will soon let you know the difference between the two. I will not let you die easily. I will heal your heart and lungs while I torture you to death. You will die with regret, pain and despair." The moon spirit marrow fluid was running fast, and the magic circuits in Kenneth's body were operating on a large scale like a factory machine, and the circuits even made a slight sound. The moon spirit marrow fluid took effect on the bullet instantly. It transformed itself into mercury rope blocks, forming a hollow cylinder, and then quickly rotated, even putting the bullet in it. Kenneth wanted to use the power brought by the rotation to dissolve the thread of the bullet. However, the mercury collapsed the moment it really touched the bullet, and the bullet quickly shot into Kenneth's body, and suddenly, severe pain came from all over his body. The magic circuits were cut off one by one, and then they were randomly connected. Kenneth's body was now like a big hemp flower, and its balance completely collapsed. The magic power that was originally circulating was forcibly intercepted countless times, and its backlash greatly damaged Kenneth's body. The power of the magic riot destroyed a large number of Kenneth's neural circuits. He could no longer control his body and fell to the ground. After defeating the powerful enemy who had been chasing him all the way, Kiritsugu Imaya's face did not improve at all. After all, his current situation was even more dangerous. However, he did not regret it. If it happened again, he would still choose to lure Kenneth in, that is, not come in himself, or make more preparations. Despicable magician. Die? A mercury spear pierced through Kiritsugu Imaya's body. Kiritsugu Imaya showed an incredible look in his eyes. He glanced behind him and saw a completely unharmed Kenneth standing there. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 98 The End of the War. This tool man is so bold that he actually wants to plot against me. Xia Yu lay on the sofa in a nearly paralyzed position, with his feet on Naoko's back. He held a craft crystal ball that was usually used as a Christmas gift in his hand, and sneered at the endless fighting inside. That's right, the battle between Imaya Kiritsugu and Kenneth took place in this ball, and the specific time of entry was not the so-called entry into the Matau mansion, but almost at the beginning. Otherwise, they would not have been able to have no gap in the mighty battle of killing gods. Really? Not only do I have to worry about those jackals every day, but there are always bugs that want to suck my blood. Xia Yu casually put the crystal ball in his hand aside, and a wanton smile appeared on his face. The jackals naturally refer to guys like Naoko and Cthulhu. Although Naoko is now suppressed by Xia Yu, her own personality is a troublesome character, and it will definitely be a headache. And that Cthulhu. That passage connects the two worlds. Cthulhu got the coordinates of this side, and Xia Yu also got the coordinates of Cthulhu's world. This account must be settled. No existence can invade Xia Yu's territory without paying a price. Ha ha ha. Naoko supported the ground with both palms and knelt on the ground, like a four-legged animal. She kept panting, and the strange touch from behind made her very happy. She is a very special existence. Rather than being a creature, she is more like a kind of rule. She has never had a body, and the so-called form is just something like an illusion to her. And those feelings that only exist in the flesh, she naturally cannot feel. If we start from the four realms, she is an existence that only exists in the prototype world. Although she is the attribute of Earth, she is more like a spiritual existence in the material world and has no flesh. The so-called pain, pressure and other feelings are actually feelings that only exist in the flesh. Those noble beings who understand what pain, pressure and instinct are all once descended into the material world and have a flesh body. Nyarlathotep, who has never experienced it, is naturally fascinated by this feeling. By the way, her so-called flesh body is the concept of human given to her by Xia Yu. Only Xia Yu can bring her these novel feelings, and the novelty that these feelings can bring will only last for hundreds of millions of years. When humans encounter interesting games, they will get a little bored after about a day, and after a month, there will be no novelty, and they will rely on love to continue to persist. For ancient and eternal gods like Nyarlathotep, they have experienced countless billions of billions. For them, billions are no different from a day for humans. For this reason, she would be willing to lie dormant at Xia Yu's feet for several billions. She didn't feel humiliated or embarrassed. These were just the self-righteousness of low-level creatures. As long as she could find it interesting, she would do anything. Just like now, being a footstool for others, only slaves in ancient times would be so humble, but she didn't care. Is it necessary for her to care about the cognition of a tiny race that is billions of times worse than her billions? At this moment, Xia Yu was thinking about another thing. Is this Holy Grail war meaningless? The reason why Xia Yu didn't sweep the whole situation was because he had an agreement with Naoko, but now Naoko has bowed down at his feet, so is this war actually meaningless? Just when Xia Yu was thinking about this, Roman and Jingu came. Father, Jingu's expression immediately became excited when he saw Xia Yu, but when he saw Xia Yu's footpad, his face showed dissatisfaction again. Is that so? Originally, it was just a suspicion, but at the moment of seeing it, Jingu's state was completely known to Xia Yu. Jingu is a real heroic spirit. She is not a living person who has signed a contract with Elia, but a hero. Just like Roman. They are their own names. Jingu is not the real daughter of Xia Yu, but this item is included in her concept. Take Roman as an example. This Roman is the Roman who has completed a great feat at a certain node in the future. His concept is the name of the throne of heroes. He is the concept that only exists in the Hall of Heroes. He is not a living person, no. He is a person, but he is the Roman who belongs only to himself. He is not the so-called Roman of the future, he is himself. And Jingu is the same. In the future, Xia Yu may create a child with Tiamat, Jingu. But the Jingu in front of him is not that Jingu. She is just a new projection of the concept of Jingu. It is almost the same as Misaka's sister and Misaka Mikado, but more advanced. Sister and Mikado are just blood clones, while this one is a concept replica, but it is indeed Xia Yu's child. After a thorough understanding, Xia Yu closed the calculation confinement as usual, and smiled. Welcome back, yeah. Jingu threw himself into Xia Yu's arms, just like a child who came home after school. However, it was just a personality. The soft body and the fragrance emanating from it made Xia Yu continue to think wildly. She is my daughter. But there is no blood relationship. Wait, Roman glanced at the terrifying evil god who is now stepping on Xia Yu with some shame. Just looking at him made his back cold. It was probably a terrifying evil god that his 72 pillars of demons could not contend with. I really don't know what he did. But none of this is important. What is important is what Xia Yu said next. Roman, it's time to end this war. Ah. Yes. How do you want to solve it? Indeed, Xia Yu no longer has checks and balances. At present, how this war will end really depends on Xia Yu's mood. Whether to use force to sweep the whole situation in a millisecond, or to use wisdom to stage a big drama, it all depends on his mood. I'm going to have a Holy Grail quiz, use the form of a question and answer to ask about their wishes, and then use the Holy Grail to drive them to work for me. After all, the Holy Grail war is over. There are still many things to do. Hey. Don't look for me. Roman had a bad premonition in his heart. Do you want to go back to Valhalla? Don't you think we need to create an organization that can protect our own interests and help me achieve my goals? By the way, the latter is the key point. Well, what should such a great organization be called? Hey. I think you should answer me. Let's call it Chaldea. Chapter 99. The sun is still high. Clang. The sun rose slowly, but the people who had just listened to the voice of the evil god and were in a coma did not wake up. The battle in the suburbs was not over. When the sun rose, Karna's strength, speed and other attributes all increased in quantity. The increase was not great, but it still existed. Karna kept waving his spear with both hands, and the flames burned at the tip of the spear, and arcs of fire appeared in the air. Arjuna was in a defensive state, and the flaming spear passed by him. He was no longer in the crazy posture of a berserker before. His eyes were fixed on Karna's arm in front of him, and he judged the opponent's attack method and trajectory through the operation of his arm and the movement of muscle tissue. At the same time, his body quickly accepted the control of his own judgment, and took action immediately before catching any information. Suddenly, a bolt from the blue. A thunder fell from the sky and fell towards the intersection of the two. This was the thunder summoned by Arjuna, the purpose of which was to force Karna back, so as to increase the distance so that he could carry out long-range attacks. Karna did not dodge or evade, but took the thunder directly. The thunder was like a pillar, covering the two of them in an instant, and Karna was covered with the golden light, and the thunder was quickly filtered. Arjuna turned into thunder and retreated quickly. He knew that Karna would not dodge, because he knew the armor that Karna had. He had experienced the armor before, and the armor had incredible defensive power. It was not defense, but filtering. The armor could filter the attack and reduce more than 90% of the power. Even his thunder was nothing after being filtered. Therefore, he wanted to use the thunder to turn himself into thunder and keep a distance. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Thunder arrows were constantly shot out from the thunder as Arjuna retreated. Clang. Karna smashed a lightning arrow casually, and his body also moved forward quickly, constantly dodging lightning arrows by moving, and constantly approaching Arjuna. However, even as the so-called fastest profession lancer, he could not get close to Arjuna when Arjuna wanted to kite. We have to delay him, Karna's brain thought quickly, and he was very happy now. The purpose of his coming here was to fight with many heroes in history, and now the old opponent who defeated him was in front of him. For him, it was naturally the best to fight with him again. Karna turned his palm and a ball of fire floated on his hand. He blew it out gently. A group of fist-sized fireballs flew forward and hit Arjuna. To be precise, it was attacking the path that Karna predicted Arjuna would take. Because Arjuna did not run forward in a straight line. If he ran like that, even Karna's fireballs would not be able to catch up. Fireballs continued to explode, blasting out one smoking hole after another in the earth. Arjuna was like a flexible hummingbird, quickly passing through the explosions. At the same time, arrows cut through the air, penetrated the smoke, and quickly came towards Karna. Squeak. Karna changed his body shape, forced a break with his right foot, and swung the spear in his hand 180% forward. The blazing flames formed a fan shape, shattering the dozens of thunderbolts. Burn the sky. Cover the earth. Karna used one of his many treasures. Red light radiated from Karna's eyes, and the extreme high temperature instantly destroyed the earth. As Karna's eyes met, the light quickly swept towards Arjuna's regular path. It seemed that Arjuna also felt a blazing light. Arjuna suddenly stopped, and the blazing light passed in front of him. The terrifying high temperature radiated towards the sky at this moment. An invisible wall of fire appeared in front of Arjuna, and the blazing hurricane made the air extremely dry. Karna. Arjuna suddenly covered his head with his hands, and waves of pain came from his mind along with the picture. Karna did not attack again, but waited. This was the rule set when the two of them dueled. When one side fell into a special situation, the battle stopped. Arjuna roared, his posture became more crazy, and the thick lightning entangled on his body symbolized his anger. But there was some sadness in his voice, and guilt. When the other side is unable to fight due to special reasons, we should stop fighting. This was the covenant he made with Karna in the last battle. The last battle lasted for many days. He had encountered many situations, and Karna stopped just like the covenant. Until the last time of the war. Karna's carriage was stuck by rocks, and he should have stopped. But at this time, "Brother, kill him," the voice of his younger brother came from the side. "Brother, kill him now." The younger brother's expression was so ferocious, and his tone was so firm. "I can't. This is unjust. In the past battlefields, Karna had spared his 5 brothers many times because of the covenant, but this time, he couldn't. He wanted to say so. But for some reason, the longbow given by his father was already full, and the terrifying thunder was just like his father's roar, gushing out together. Indra's arrow. So I'm just a despicable villain. With such thoughts, Arjuna fell into madness. He wanted to find Karna again and fight again, this time, a fair fight. And Karna's attitude of continuing to abide by the covenant just now once again stimulated him. Why? Why are you so noble? Until now, you don't even hate me. Is this jealousy? Maybe it's just guilt. This is the wrath of my father. This is the moment of judging everything. Fall now. Indra's arrow. Once again. Arjuna pulled the bowstring to its full length. Feel the mercy of the king of gods. Indra, watch carefully. Extinction. This stab is the beginning. Burn thoroughly, sun disk. Submit to death. The golden armor left his body, and the long spear in his hand was raised high in the air, and the second sun rose. This divine spear, which should have the attribute of thunder, has a posture like a sun disk. This is a divine spear that can defeat all gods. When Indra took away the golden armor, he gave it to Karna because his attitude was too noble, so he thought he had to repay him. The violent thunder turned into a long dragon, and the scorching sun smashed down. This time, the sun was not shot down. That's how it should be. Next time, I will win. Please recommend. Please collect. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 100, Jang Taegong Fishes, take the bait if you are willing. In a buffet restaurant in downtown Fuayuki, there is a table that attracts a lot of attention. Not only because there is an extremely beautiful woman and a very handsome boy at the table, but also because of the height of the table. Plates are piled up one after another, reaching a height of nearly half a meter. The 3 waiters next to them are constantly clearing the plates, but their speed is still not as fast as that of the handsome boy. The 2 are Saber and Iris Veal, who just joined to finish the soy sauce. Saber is eating continuously, eating enthusiastically. Iris Veal, who is sitting opposite her, has a sad face, supporting her face with one hand, looking out the window. What's wrong, Iris? Saber's face squirms like a squirrel hiding pine nuts, making people wonder how she can speak when her mouth is occupied to this extent. Oh, I was thinking that the boss of this restaurant might use tears to mop the floor. Irisville smiled reluctantly. Alice, you are thinking about what happened at the beach before. Saber swallowed the food in her mouth all at once, smiled, and said to Iris Veal, don't worry, Alice, I will definitely help you win. In fact, Saber was not sure at the moment. After all, she felt that she had lost 80% of the time after seeing the gods fighting last night. However, as a king and a servant, she could not show cowardice in front of the master. Well, I believe you. Iris Veal nodded and showed a bright and beautiful smile. Well, Saber then began her plan to clear the scene. That? Saber. I remembered that there is something I didn't buy. I will go back to buy it, Irisville suddenly said. Do you need me to accompany you, Alice? No, I can go by myself. Oh, if you encounter danger, you must call me as soon as possible, of course. And 5 minutes later, Iris Veal looked at the building in front of her. The simple and elegant courtyard was planted with several trees, and the flowers and plants grew leisurely. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Alice felt that this courtyard had a sense of demons, as if everything was alive. Ding dong as Alice pressed the doorbell. At that moment, she seemed to be seen through directly, and countless eyes seemed to pierce through her clothes, pulling out her skin, bones, and even her soul to watch. At this moment, she had no secrets. Then, the door in front of her opened. After a brief silence, Alice stepped into the courtyard. Doors opened for her one by one, and she followed the instructions and came to the second floor. The last door was not opened, but she knew which one it was. Just when Alice was about to hold the door handle. You have to think it through, Roman leaned against the wall, with pity in his eyes. To be honest, although he and Xia Yu were friends, he didn't like Xia Yu very much. The relationship between them is also very complicated. Just like the ghost chaser in Aleister and Xia Yu's world, they can barely be considered friends, and there is this life-saving grace, but the two do not really like each other. Roman is the same. He will help Xia Yu in whatever he does, because they both think it is right. But in terms of personal life and personality, he does not like Xia Yu. And coming out at this moment is not to prevent Xia Yu from doing good things, but just to warn him. Since they have come here, his warning is actually redundant. Is it really here? Alice laughed softly. She couldn't actually tell the reason. She just came here by relying on an intuition. And Roman's appearance just told her that her intuition was right, or, it was not actually an intuition. Roman did not reply to her, and there was no need to reply to her. Alice turned the handle and walked into the room. It was very ordinary. She originally thought that there would be a strong and terrifying demonic aura or something. But it was just very ordinary. A young man was sitting on the sofa. Behind him stood a beautiful woman with long blue-white hair, an apron tied around her body, and a pair of huge and strange decorations like ram horns on her head, pinching her shoulders, and under her feet was a beautiful girl with silver hair. Well, this scene is not ordinary at all. No matter how you look at it, you can imagine some restricted scenes. Of course, Alice didn't understand it very well, so she just felt a little uncomfortable. Otherwise, she would probably be thinking about whether to run away. Hello. Miss Alice, I wonder what you are doing here this time. At this time, Xia Yu spoke. The boy in front of him seemed a little ordinary except for his appearance. Alice was not sure if this was the person she was looking for. Xia Yu raised his right hand, and thunder appeared on his palm again. It was only about 1 foot, but it seemed that the whole world was nothing compared to it. Confirmed. Your Majesty, I have another request. Alice got straight to the point. Tell me about it, please help me destroy the Holy Grail. Xia Yu had a playful expression on his face. Does your servant, Saber, know about it? Xia Yu didn't really care about the reason, he was more concerned about this question. Irisville's silence told Xia Yu the answer. Hey, is that so? Since you've kept it a secret from Saber, it means that Saber doesn't mean much to you. How about this? Sell Saber to me, and I'll help you destroy the Holy Grail. Xia Yu still had that indifferent smile, but in Irisville's eyes, he was no different from a demon. Tiamat tilted her head slightly. She didn't quite understand what Xia Yu was talking about. Sorry. Just pretend I haven't been here. Irisville turned and left. What price can you offer? When Xia Yu's voice came over, she still stopped. Irisville slowly closed the door, glanced at Nyako who was stepped on by Xia Yu. Kneeling on both knees, unbuttoned the 3 buttons below the neck. The white cheeks were stained with a blush, and the weight in front of him, along with the gravity, made Xia Yu see the distance between the peaks. You can use yourself as a bargaining chip, but you are unwilling to buy a servant? Well, we are not the same kind of people. But I have always been very tolerant of talented people. The Holy Grail war will not end. But there will be no more bloodshed, and the Holy Grail will not be needed. This is my bargaining chip, and the price is you. If you agree, come a little closer. If you don't agree, you can leave. Irisville never wanted the Holy Grail to be destroyed, but just whether the Holy Grail was needed. So, welcome to join Chaldea. There is no need to make such a gesture. Although you don't believe it, this is actually what she likes. From now on, we will be colleagues. Now is not the time, or it is too boring. Anyway, it is already in hand, there is no need to rush. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.